Every anxious thought feels heavier at night, because silence has a way of making small fears sound like thunder. When the lights go off, when the world slows down, when no one is speaking to you anymore, the mind often begins speaking louder than ever. It brings back the thing you forgot to answer, the mistake you wish you could undo, the future you cannot control, the person you are afraid to lose, the problem that keeps circling your chest like it belongs there. But tonight, you do not have to follow every thought that knocks on the door of your mind. You do not have to answer every worry. You do not have to solve your whole life before morning. Some thoughts are not truths. Some fears are only tired echoes. Some heaviness is not a warning. It is a sign that your mind has been carrying too much for too long. The Stoics understood something many people forget. Peace does not come from controlling everything around you. Peace begins when you stop letting everything control what happens inside you. They taught that the mind becomes free when it learns what belongs to it and what does not. Your choices belong to you. Your breath belongs to you. Your response belongs to you. But tomorrow's uncertainty, other people's opinions, old regrets and imagined disasters do not deserve to own your night. Tonight, this sleep meditation is your quiet return to yourself. 4 hours to loosen the grip of anxious thoughts. 4 hours to stop wrestling with shadows. 4 hours to lay down what cannot be fixed in the dark. And before morning comes, may your mind remember this simple truth. You are allowed to rest, even while life is unfinished. And as the night begins to open its quiet door, remember this. You are not here to defeat your mind. You are here to understand it. You are here to stop believing that every thought that becomes loud in the dark must be true. Because the same mind that feels calm in the afternoon can become restless at midnight. The same problem that looked small while the sun was still up can suddenly feel like a mountain when your body is tired, your room is quiet, and your heart has nothing left to hide behind. There is a strange pain that comes when the world becomes still, because that is when the thoughts you buried under movement begin to rise. During the day, you may seem fine. You answer messages, you smile when needed, you carry your tasks, your duties, your responsibilities, your face. You move from one thing to the next, and the movement gives you the feeling that you are in control. But when night comes, there is no movement left to distract you. There is no noise to cover the inner noise. There is no conversation, no work, no errand, no screen bright enough to silence what has been waiting underneath. And this is why the night mind feels so convincing. It speaks when you are weakest, then pretends it is wisdom. But the night mind is not always the true mind. It is often the tired mind, the unprotected mind, the mind without daylight, without energy, without balance. It takes ordinary worries and dresses them in the clothes of prophecy. It takes one mistake and makes it sound like your whole life is falling apart. It takes one unanswered message and turns it into rejection. It takes one uncertain future and turns it into disaster. It takes one memory and makes it feel like a sentence you must keep serving. This is why so many people suffer most when they are supposed to be resting. Not because their life is worse at night, but because their mind has lost the strength to measure things clearly. When your body is tired, your thoughts become heavier. When your nervous system has been tense all day, your fears become sharper. When you have spent hours holding yourself together, even a small worry can feel like the final weight. This does not mean the worry is true. It means your inner strength is asking to be restored. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that the mind can mistake impressions for reality. A thought appears and without training we bow to it. A fear appears and we call it truth. A memory appears and we allow it to pull us back into pain. But the Stoic path begins with a pause, not a loud pause, not a dramatic one, just a quiet space between the thought and your belief in it. A thought can say, "Tomorrow will go badly," but you can answer, "You do not know that." A thought can say, "I ruined everything," but you can answer, "I made a mistake and I can meet it with wisdom." A thought can say, "No one cares," but you can answer, "Tonight I am tired, and tiredness is making loneliness sound like truth." This is how you begin to take your power back, not by forcing the mind to be silent, but by refusing to treat every night thought as a command. Because anxiety after dark has a certain trick. It does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers in a voice that sounds like protection. It says, "Think about this now, so you can be safe." It says, "Replay this conversation so you can understand what went wrong." It says, "Prepare for every possible problem so nothing can hurt you." And at first, it sounds responsible, it sounds careful, it sounds like the mind is trying to help. But after a while, you begin to notice something. The more you think, the less peaceful you become. The more you rehearse, the less prepared you feel. The more you chase certainty, the farther rest moves away from you. This is because anxiety does not end by being obeyed. It grows when it is fed. If the mind brings you a real concern at night, you can honor it without surrendering your sleep to it. You can say, "I see this. I will meet it in the morning." That simple sentence is not denial. It is discipline. It is the wisdom to know that a tired mind is not the best judge, and a dark room is not the best court for your life. Many people believe they must solve the thought before they can sleep. But sometimes sleep is the solution that makes the thought smaller. Morning does not only bring light to the room, it brings strength back to the mind. It brings steadier breathing. It brings clearer judgment. It brings the quiet reminder that not every fear deserved the size it took in the dark. Think of how many times the night has lied to you. How many times you were sure something terrible would happen, and it did not. How many times you felt a pain so large at midnight, then woke up and saw it with softer eyes. How many times your mind built a storm out of shadows, and by morning you realized you had been fighting smoke. This does not mean your feelings are fake. Your feelings are real. The tight chest is real. The racing thoughts are real. The ache is real. But real does not always mean accurate. A feeling can be real and still not be the full truth. A fear can be loud and still not be wise. A thought can hurt and still not deserve your obedience. This is one of the most freeing lessons you can learn before sleep. Not everything that visits your mind belongs in your heart. Some thoughts come because you are exhausted. Some come because your body has carried stress for too long. Some come because silence removes the walls you built during the day. Some come because the mind is still trying to protect you in the only way it knows how, by scanning for danger, even when there is no danger in the room. So tonight, instead of fighting the night mind, you can gently place it where it belongs. You can say, "This is my tired mind speaking. This is not my whole truth." You can let the thought pass through without building a home for it. You can feel the worry without becoming the worry. You can hear the fear without kneeling before it. And slowly, something inside begins to change. The thought may still come, but it no longer rules the room. The fear may still knock, but you no longer open the door every time. The memory may still rise, but you no longer follow it all the way back into suffering. This is not weakness. This is mastery. The strongest person is not the one who never feels anxious at night. The strongest person is the one who learns to meet the anxious thought with calm authority. Not anger, not panic, not shame. Calm authority. The kind that says, "You may speak, but you will not lead me. You may appear, but you will not own this night. You may be loud, but I know what you are. You are a passing cloud inside a tired sky. And that tired sky can clear. Your mind does not need punishment tonight. It needs direction. It needs softness. It needs to remember that darkness changes the shape of things, but not the truth of things. A shadow can look like a monster until light returns. A worry can look like destiny until rest returns. A mistake can look like identity until compassion returns. So, as you lie here, let this truth settle gently into you. The night mind is not the final judge of your life. It is only a voice passing through a tired hour. You do not have to believe every story it tells. You do not have to follow every fear it offers. You do not have to fix your future from your pillow. You are allowed to wait for morning. You are allowed to let the thought be unfinished. You are allowed to rest before you understand everything. Because peace begins the moment you stop confusing anxiety with truth. And tonight, one anxious thought at a time, you are learning to return to yourself. And as you begin to see that the night mind is not always the true mind, something inside you becomes softer. Because once you stop believing every dark thought as final truth, you gain a little space. And in that space you can begin the next quiet practice. Separating what is real from what fear has invented. This is where peace becomes possible. Not because every problem disappears, but because you stop letting fear dress itself like fact. There is a kind of fear that enters the mind so quietly. You do not notice when it changes your whole story. It begins as one small concern, a thought, a question, a feeling in the chest. Then, before you know it, the mind has built a full storm around it. One unanswered call becomes abandonment. One mistake becomes failure. One delay becomes disaster. One strange look becomes rejection. One uncertain tomorrow becomes proof that nothing will ever be safe again. And this is where many people lose sleep. Not because of what actually happened, but because of what fear added to what happened. The Stoics understood that the mind does not suffer only from events. It suffers from the meaning it gives to events. A situation may be simple, but the mind can make it heavy. A moment may be unfinished, but fear can turn it into a verdict. A person may be silent, but anxiety can turn that silence into a story of loss. This is why the Stoic practice before sleep is not to ask, "How do I stop feeling afraid?" The deeper question is, what is fact and what is fear? Fact is what is truly here. Fear is what the mind predicts, assumes, exaggerates, or imagines. Fact says, "They have not replied yet." Fear says, "They are leaving me." Fact says, "I made a mistake today." Fear says, "I always ruin everything." Fact says, "Tomorrow has something difficult in it." Fear says, "I will not survive it." Fact says, "I feel uncomfortable right now." Fear says, "Something terrible is coming." This difference matters because the body often reacts to fear as if it is already real. Your heart beats faster, your stomach tightens, your breathing changes, your muscles hold tension. And because the body feels alarmed, the mind says, "See, this must be serious." But sometimes the body is not confirming the truth. Sometimes it is only reacting to the story fear has been telling for too long. So before sleep, you must learn to become a gentle witness inside your own mind. Not a judge, not an enemy, not someone who attacks every thought. Just a calm observer who can say, "Let me look at this clearly." This is a rare skill because most people either obey their fear or fight it. They obey it by following every anxious thought until they are exhausted, or they fight it by trying to force the fear away, which only makes the mind more tense. But the Stoic way is quieter. You place the fear on one side and the fact on the other. You do not shame yourself for feeling afraid. You simply refuse to let fear pretend it is evidence. Tonight, if a worry comes, do not rush into it. Do not build a house inside it. Pause and ask, what do I know for sure? Not what do I feel strongly, not what do I suspect, not what have I suffered before, what do I know for sure? This question is powerful because anxiety hates clear boundaries. Anxiety wants to blend memory, fear, prediction, and emotion into one heavy cloud. But clarity separates them. It says, this part happened. This part is my fear. This part is my old wound speaking. This part is tomorrow's uncertainty. This part is not here yet. And once you separate them, the worry often becomes smaller. Maybe not gone, but smaller. And sometimes smaller is enough to sleep. Because you do not need perfect peace before sleep. You only need enough truth to stop drowning in imagination. Many anxious thoughts feel convincing because they borrow pain from the past. If someone once left you, fear may tell you every silence means leaving. If you once failed, fear may tell you every challenge means failure. If you once felt unsafe, fear may tell you every unknown thing is danger. But the past is not always a prophet. Sometimes the past is only a bruise that still hurts when the present touches it. The Stoics would not ask you to deny your past. They would ask you not to let your past become the ruler of every new moment. What happened before may explain why you feel afraid, but it does not prove that the same pain is happening again. This is the wisdom of separating fear from fact. It gives the present a chance to be seen clearly. And this matters most before sleep, because the tired mind is easily pulled into old patterns. At night, the mind may not have the strength to reason deeply. It may return to familiar fear, because familiar fear feels like preparation. But fear is not always preparation. Sometimes fear is only suffering in advance. You can prepare for tomorrow without punishing yourself tonight. You can care about your life without turning your bed into a battlefield. You can be responsible without rehearsing every possible disaster. You can admit that something matters without giving it permission to steal your rest. This is not laziness. This is discipline. A scattered mind cannot serve you well. A sleepless mind cannot meet tomorrow with wisdom. If there is something to solve, you will solve it better after rest. If there is something to face, you will face it better with strength. If there is something to accept, you will accept it better when the body is not begging for peace. So the practice is simple, but deep. When fear speaks, write the truth inside yourself. This is a thought, not a command. This is a feeling, not a prophecy. This is a possibility, not a fact. This is discomfort, not danger. This is uncertainty, not doom. With each sentence, you take back the night. You remind the mind that it does not have to finish every story. You remind the heart that not every alarm needs action. You remind the body that it can soften even when life has unanswered questions. Because the goal is not to control the future before morning. The goal is to stop letting an imagined future control this quiet hour. There is a strange peace that comes when you finally admit, I do not know. Fear wants you to hate those words. It wants you to believe that not knowing means danger. But sometimes I do not know is the most honest, peaceful sentence you can carry into sleep. I do not know what tomorrow will bring. I do not know what someone else is thinking. I do not know how everything will unfold. But I do know this. I am here now. I am breathing now. I am safe enough to rest now. And I do not have to turn uncertainty into suffering. That is where the Stoic mind becomes free. Not because it has answers to everything, but because it no longer invents pain where there is no proof. It no longer lets fear wear the crown of truth. It no longer bows to every shadow that appears in the dark. Tonight, let facts be facts, and let fears be fears. Do not mix them. Do not marry them. Do not let the mind turn a small unknown into a life sentence. Place the worry down gently and say, "If this is real, I will meet it when I have strength. If this is fear, I will not feed it with my sleep." And slowly, the inner noise begins to loosen. The heart stops running toward every possible danger. The body remembers the bed is not a battlefield. The mind remembers that rest is not something it must earn by solving everything first. Before morning comes, this is the quiet freedom waiting for you. The ability to feel fear without calling it truth, to face uncertainty without turning it into doom, and to sleep knowing that not every thought deserves to be believed. And once you learn to separate fear from fact, another hidden pattern becomes easier to see. The mind is not only afraid at night. Sometimes it is rehearsing. It is practicing conversations that may never happen. It is solving problems that do not need solving yet. It is preparing for pain before pain has arrived. And because the world is quiet, the rehearsal feels important. But often, it is not wisdom. It is the tired brain trying to protect you with the only tool it knows: repetition. There is a certain kind of exhaustion that does not come from the body. It comes from thinking your way through battles that have not begun. You may lie down with the honest desire to rest, but the moment your head touches the pillow, the mind opens its old theater. It brings out tomorrow's duties. It replays today's mistakes. It pulls in old conversations, unfinished worries, small doubts, strange fears, and moments that seemed harmless in the afternoon but suddenly feel urgent in the dark. And there you are, in bed, doing invisible labor. No one sees it. No one hears it. But inside, you are working. You are planning, defending, explaining, preparing, correcting, guessing, and trying to control an entire future from one tired body. This is why nighttime anxiety can feel so unfair. The day is over, but the mind refuses to end it. The brain rehearses problems at night because it was built to protect you. Its deepest instinct is not peace. Its deepest instinct is survival. So when life feels uncertain, the brain begins scanning. It searches for what could go wrong. It studies the faces, the words, the silence, the bills, the deadlines, the health worries, the relationship tension, the old wounds. It thinks, if I can understand every danger before it arrives, maybe I can keep us safe. That sounds helpful at first. But there is a quiet tragedy here. The brain can be trying to protect you and still be stealing your rest. Because not every problem can be solved by thinking. Some problems require time. Some require daylight. Some require another person's response. Some require strength you will only have after sleep. Some require information you do not yet possess. And some are not even problems yet. They are only possibilities dressed in fear. But the anxious brain does not like waiting. Waiting feels unsafe to it. So it rehearses. It creates a mental version of the problem and tries to defeat it before morning. It practices what you will say if someone criticizes you. It plans what you will do if tomorrow goes badly. It imagines how you will recover if something fails. It tries to prepare you for loss, rejection, embarrassment, disappointment, and danger. But preparation has a limit. After that limit, it becomes suffering. The Stoics would call you back to a simple truth. No amount of nighttime rehearsing gives you control over what is not yet here. You can prepare your character, but you cannot fully prepare the world. You can decide your values, but you cannot decide every outcome. You can choose patience, courage, honesty, and self-control, but you cannot force tomorrow to obey the script your anxiety wrote at midnight. And this is where the mind must be gently trained, not punished, not shamed, trained. When your brain begins rehearsing a problem, You do not have to follow the rehearsal all the way to exhaustion. You can pause and ask, is there anything useful I can do about this right now? If the answer is yes, do the small thing. Write the reminder. Set the alarm. Place the paper where you will see it. Send the necessary message if it is truly wise and appropriate. But if the answer is no, then the next act of wisdom is not more thinking. It is release. Release does not mean the problem is unimportant. It means this hour is not the place to solve it. A tired mind is a poor judge of tomorrow. At night, the brain often loses proportion. One task becomes a mountain. One conversation becomes a threat. One uncertainty becomes a warning sign. One discomfort becomes proof that everything is wrong. This happens because tiredness changes the way the mind measures life. It removes softness. It removes patience. It removes the wider view. It makes every fear stand closer to your face. That is why a problem can feel impossible at night and manageable in the morning. Not because the problem changed, but because your state changed. Morning gives the mind what midnight takes away: energy, light, movement, perspective, and the quiet confidence that comes from being restored. Sleep is not a delay in wisdom. Sleep is often what makes wisdom possible. The brain wants to rehearse because it believes rest will make you unprepared. But the truth is, rest often makes you more prepared than worry ever could. Think of a person who stays up all night rehearsing a difficult conversation. They imagine every response, every insult, every silence, every possible ending. By morning, they have not become wiser. They have become drained. Their voice is weaker. Their patience is thinner. Their emotions are closer to the surface. The rehearsal did not protect them. It consumed the strength they needed to handle the real moment. This is why the Stoic path asks for discipline before sleep. Not the discipline of controlling every thought, but the discipline of choosing which thoughts deserve your energy. Some thoughts deserve a notebook, not your nervous system. Some problems deserve a morning plan, not a midnight panic. Some concerns deserve one clear action, not 4 hours of mental punishment. And some fears deserve nothing more than the quiet sentence, "Not now." There is power in saying, "Not now." It is not avoidance, it is timing. It is the wisdom of knowing that even serious matters must be met in the right state of mind. A farmer does not plant seed in the middle of a storm and call it responsibility. A sailor does not repair the sail while the sea is raging and call it strength. In the same way, you do not have to solve your whole life while your body is begging for sleep and your mind is wrapped in darkness. The anxious brain will tell you that stopping the rehearsal is dangerous. It will say, "What if you forget?" It will say, "What if you are not ready?" It will say, "What if this becomes worse?" But you can answer with calm authority, "If it matters, I will meet it with a rested mind. If it does not matter, I do not need to lose sleep over it." This is how you return control to the right place. You may not control tomorrow's events, but you can control whether you sacrifice tonight to them. You may not control another person's reaction, but you can control whether you spend the whole night arguing with their imagined voice. You may not control every outcome, but you can control whether fear gets to use your bed as a planning room for disaster. Before sleep, the brain needs a boundary, not a harsh boundary, a loving one. The kind you would give to a frightened child who keeps asking the same question again and again. You would not shout at the child. You would not call the child foolish. You would place a gentle hand on their shoulder and say, "We are safe enough for now. We will handle this tomorrow." This is how you speak to your own mind tonight. We are safe enough for now. We have done enough for today. We will meet tomorrow when tomorrow arrives. This thought can wait outside the door. The problem does not need my sleep to be solved. Each phrase is a small act of inner leadership. You are teaching the brain that not every concern requires immediate rehearsal. You are teaching the body that rest is not a threat. You are teaching the heart that life can remain unfinished without becoming unbearable. Because much of anxiety comes from the belief that unfinished things are dangerous. An unfinished conversation, an unfinished plan, an unfinished dream, an unfinished apology, an unfinished decision. But life is always unfinished at night. No one goes to bed with everything solved. Even the calmest person on earth sleeps beside unanswered questions. Peace is not the absence of unfinished things. Peace is the ability to stop worshipping urgency. The Stoic does not need the world to be complete before resting. The Stoic only needs to know what belongs to this moment. And what belongs to this moment is not tomorrow's argument, not next week's fear, not next year's uncertainty, not the old conversation that cannot be edited. What belongs to this moment is the breath entering and leaving, the body growing heavy, the mind being invited back from every imagined battlefield, the simple truth that nothing useful is being built by rehearsing pain in the dark. So, if your brain begins again tonight, if it opens the same problem and tries to solve it from every angle, do not hate it. It is trying to help. But do not obey it blindly either. Thank it for wanting to protect you, then guide it back to rest. Say quietly, I see the problem. I respect the concern. But this is not the hour for solving. This is the hour for restoring. And slowly, the mind may loosen its grip. The rehearsal may fade. The imagined conversations may lose their sharpness. The future may stop standing over you like a threat. You may feel, maybe for the first time in a long while, that you do not have to earn sleep by finishing every thought. You are allowed to stop in the middle of the sentence. You are allowed to let tomorrow remain tomorrow. You are allowed to leave some doors unopened until morning, because the brain may rehearse problems at night. But your deeper wisdom knows this. Nothing good grows from a mind that never rests. And before morning comes, the most powerful thing you can do may not be thinking harder. It may be trusting that a rested you will be stronger than an anxious you ever could be. And when the mind finally begins to understand that not every problem must be rehearsed in the dark, another truth rises quietly. Tomorrow was never meant to sleep beside you. The future has its own hour, its own light, its own strength. But anxiety drags it into the bed before its time, places it on your chest, and then wonders why breathing feels so hard. Tonight, the work is not to abandon tomorrow. The work is to stop carrying it before it arrives. There is a tiredness that comes from living one day while mentally surviving the next one too. You may have already given today everything you had. You may have answered what needed answering, endured what needed enduring, smiled when you did not feel strong, worked when your body wanted stillness, listened when your own heart needed to be heard. Then night comes, and instead of being allowed to rest, the mind opens the door to tomorrow. It brings in the meeting, the bill, the conversation, the decision, the unknown result, the person you are worried about, the task you are not ready for, the fear that something may go wrong. And suddenly your bed is no longer a place of rest. It becomes a storage room for burdens that do not belong to this hour. This is the hidden cost of carrying tomorrow into tonight. You lose the only place where the soul was supposed to recover. You turn your pillow into a planning table. You turn silence into pressure. You turn darkness into a courtroom where your future is judged before it even arrives. And the saddest part is this: the more you carry tomorrow tonight, the weaker you become for the very tomorrow you are trying to prepare for. Anxiety often disguises this as responsibility. It tells you, if you think about it now, you will be ready. It tells you, if you worry enough, you will prevent pain. It tells you, if you stay alert, nothing will catch you off guard. But worry is not the same as readiness. Carrying a burden early does not make it lighter. It only makes your present heavier. The Stoics understood that life becomes painful when the mind leaves the present and tries to live in a time that has not yet been given to it. They did not teach people to ignore the future. They taught them to meet it with wisdom, not fear. There is a difference between preparing for tomorrow and suffering tomorrow before it comes. Preparation is calm. It is simple. It asks, "What can I do?" Then it does that small thing. Anxiety asks, "What if everything goes wrong?" Then it punishes you with answers that may never become real. This is why carrying tomorrow's burden into tonight feels so costly. It steals your strength without changing the future. It takes your peace without giving you control. It makes you pay interest on pain that may never arrive. Think about how often the mind has made you suffer twice. First in imagination, then in reality. If the thing even happened at all, you suffer before the conversation, then you suffer during it. You suffer before the result. Then you suffer when it comes. You suffer before the task. Then you suffer while doing it. But sometimes the imagined suffering is worse than the real moment. Sometimes the thing you feared becomes smaller when it finally arrives. Sometimes the person responds better than expected. Sometimes the problem has an answer you could not see at night. Sometimes morning brings a door that midnight insisted was closed. But anxiety does not wait for evidence. It wants payment now. It wants your sleep now, your calm now, your breath now, your body now. It wants tonight to be sacrificed on the altar of tomorrow. And if you keep obeying it, your nervous system begins to believe there is no safe hour. The day is for doing. The night is for worrying. The morning is for recovering from the worrying. And slowly, life becomes one long state of inattention. But this is not how you were meant to live. There must be an hour where the mind is allowed to stop carrying. There must be a place where the body is not asked to defend itself from every possible future. There must be a quiet boundary between what belongs to today and what belongs to tomorrow. Without that boundary, the soul never rests. It only collapses. This is where the Stoic practice becomes gentle but firm. You do not say, "Tomorrow does not matter." You say, "Tomorrow matters too much for me to meet it exhausted." You do not say, "I do not care." You say, "I care enough to rest so I can face it wisely." You do not say, "There is nothing to do." You say, "There is nothing useful to do in this state of fear." That distinction changes everything, because many people think rest means they have stopped being serious about life. But real rest is one of the most serious acts of self-respect. It is the decision not to destroy your mind before the day that needs it. It is the decision not to enter tomorrow already defeated. It is the decision to give your future self a rested body, a clearer mind, and a calmer heart. A tired version of you will see tomorrow as a threat. A rested version of you may see it as a task, and a task can be handled. A threat makes you freeze. This is why tonight's peace matters. It is not small. It is not optional. It is not laziness. It is the ground beneath tomorrow's courage. The person you will be in the morning is being shaped by how gently you treat yourself tonight. If you spend the night wrestling with shadows, you wake up already wounded. But if you place tomorrow down, even for a few hours, you wake up with a little more space inside you. And sometimes that space is what allows wisdom to enter. The mind may argue with this. It may say, "But what if I forget?" Then write one short note and let the rest go. It may say, "But this is important." Then answer, "Important things deserve a rested mind." It may say, "But I am not ready." Then answer, "Rest is part of becoming ready." It may say, "But what if something bad happens?" Then answer, I will meet what happens when it happens, not 100 times before. These quiet replies are not empty words, they are training. Each one teaches your mind that tomorrow has a boundary. Each one reminds your nervous system that anticipation is not obligation. Each one separates care from panic, responsibility from fear, preparation from punishment. Because the burden of tomorrow is not only made of tasks, sometimes it is made of identity. You fear tomorrow because you think it will decide who you are. If the conversation goes badly, you are unlovable. If the work is not perfect, you are a failure. If the plan falls apart, you are behind in life. If someone is disappointed, you are not enough. This is why tomorrow feels so heavy. It is not just a day. Your anxious mind turns it into a judgment of your worth. But tomorrow does not have that power unless you give it that power. A difficult day does not define you. A delayed answer does not define you. A hard conversation does not define you. A mistake, a bill, a responsibility, a painful uncertainty. None of these are allowed to become the full story of your life. They are moments, they are duties, they are seasons. They may require courage, but they do not get to own your identity. The Stoic mind rests in this truth. I will meet what comes with the character I choose. That is all. Not with perfect control, not with guaranteed outcomes, not with a promise that nothing will hurt, but with character, with patience, with courage, with honesty, with the willingness to do the next right thing when the next thing arrives. And if the next thing has not arrived, then it is not yours to carry yet. Tonight, let that sentence become a key in your chest. If it has not arrived, it is not mine to carry yet. Not because you are avoiding life, but because you are honoring time. Each day has its own weight. Each hour has its own work. Night has its own purpose too. Night was not made for dragging future pain into present silence. Night was made for repair, for softening, for returning, for letting the nervous system come down from the height it has been standing on all day. So feel the body begin to understand what the mind is learning. The shoulders do not need to hold tomorrow. The jaw does not need to clench around unfinished duties. The hands do not need to grip invisible problems. The chest does not need to protect you from a morning that has not yet opened. The bed beneath you is not asking you to solve. It is asking you to surrender what is not here. And surrender, in this sense, is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is saying, I will not spend tonight paying for tomorrow's uncertainty. It is saying, I will not turn rest into a debt I must earn. It is saying, I will not let fear steal the strength I need for the day ahead. There will be time to act, time to speak, time to decide, time to repair, time to face what must be faced. But this is not that time. This is the quiet hour where you place the future back into the future. You let tomorrow stand outside the room until morning. You let the mind return from its long journey into what if. You let the body come home to what is. And what is here now? Breath, stillness, a tired heart trying to be safe, a mind learning not to obey every demand, a body that has carried enough for one day, a life that may be unfinished but is still worthy of rest. Before morning comes, remember this. Tomorrow will not become easier because you suffered through it tonight. Tomorrow will become easier when you arrive with more strength, more calm, and more trust in your ability to meet what comes. So lay it down, not forever, just for now. Let the burden wait for its own hour. You have carried today. You do not have to carry tomorrow too. And after you learn to place tomorrow back into tomorrow, you begin to notice another quiet habit that has been stealing your peace. It is not always the size of the thought that exhausts you. Sometimes it is the way you respond to it. A thought appears and the whole body tightens. A worry knocks and the mind runs to the door. A memory rises and suddenly the night feels unsafe. But not every thought is a crisis. Not every inner voice is a command. Not every mental noise deserves your full attention. There is a deep kind of peace that begins the moment you stop treating every thought like something that must be handled right now. Most people do not lose sleep because they have too many thoughts. They lose sleep because they believe every thought requires action. The mind says, "What if something goes wrong?" And the body reacts as though danger is already in the room. The mind says, "Remember what happened," and suddenly the heart returns to a place the body has already survived. The mind says, "You need to figure this out," and before you know it, you are no longer resting. You are working inside your own head. This is how anxiety trains the mind. It teaches you to respond to every thought with urgency. It makes your inner world feel like a room full of alarms. One alarm rings about money, another rings about health, another rings about love, another rings about the future, another rings about something you said 5 years ago. And because they all sound urgent, you run from one to another, trying to quiet them all. But some alarms are false. Some are old. Some belong to wounds that no longer need defending. Some belong to fears that have no proof. Some belong to a tired mind that has forgotten the difference between a passing thought and a real emergency. The Stoics understood that the first appearance of a thought is not the problem. The problem begins when we immediately agree with it. A thought can enter the mind without becoming your master. A fear can rise without becoming your instruction. A memory can appear without dragging you back into its old pain. You do not control every visitor that knocks at the door of awareness, but you can decide which ones you invite to sit down. This is one of the most important practices before sleep, letting a thought be only a thought, not a message from the universe, not a prophecy, not a final judgment, not a sentence, not a command, just a thought, a movement in the mind, a cloud passing through the inner sky, something noticed, not something obeyed. And this sounds simple, but it can change everything. Because when you stop treating thoughts as emergencies, your body begins to stop preparing for war. The shoulders soften, the breathing slows, the chest unclenches, the jaw loosens, the stomach stops bracing. Your whole system begins to understand that it does not need to answer every signal like danger. A thought may say, "You are behind," but you do not have to run. A thought may say, "They are upset with you," but you do not have to panic. A thought may say, "You should have done more," but you do not have to punish yourself. A thought may say, "Something bad is coming," but you do not have to leave your body and live inside that fear. You can hear the thought and remain where you are. This is the quiet power anxiety does not want you to discover. You can notice without reacting. You can feel without obeying. You can pause without solving. You can allow the mind to speak without making it the ruler of the night. Many anxious people are not weak. They are highly responsive. Their minds move quickly. Their bodies listen closely. Their hearts take things seriously. They care deeply, and because they care deeply, they often treat every thought as something important. But caring does not mean every thought deserves attention. Sensitivity becomes suffering when every inner whisper is given the weight of truth. So the practice is not to become cold. It is to become wise. Wisdom says, "This thought is loud, but is it useful?" Wisdom says, "This worry is painful, but is it urgent?" Wisdom says, "This fear feels real, but is it happening now?" Wisdom says, "This memory has returned, but does it need my energy tonight?" These questions create space, and space is where peace enters. Without space, the mind reacts automatically. A thought appears and you follow it. Then another appears and you follow that one too. By the time you notice what has happened, you have traveled far away from the bed, far away from the breath, far away from the present moment. Your body is lying still, but your mind has been running through every possible disaster, every old regret, every hidden fear. But when you create space, something different happens. You begin to stand beside the thought instead of drowning inside it. You begin to see it as an event in the mind, not the whole truth of your life. And once you can see a thought clearly, it loses some of its power. This is why the Stoic path is so useful at night. It does not ask you to fight your mind. It asks you to examine what your mind offers. It teaches you to say, "This is only an impression." That means, this is how something appears to me right now, but appearance is not always reality. The thought may appear frightening. The future may appear dangerous. The memory may appear unbearable. But appearance is not the same as truth. The anxious mind often confuses intensity with importance. If a thought feels strong, it assumes the thought must matter. If the body reacts strongly, it assumes something must be wrong. If fear repeats itself, it assumes the fear must be meaningful. But repetition does not make something true. Intensity does not make something urgent. Pain does not always mean danger. Sometimes a thought is strong because it is old. Sometimes it repeats because the mind is used to it. Sometimes it feels urgent because the nervous system has been trained to expect problems. Sometimes it appears at night because silence gives it room to move. So tonight, instead of asking, "How do I stop this thought?" ask, "Can I let this thought exist without becoming its servant?" That is a different kind of strength. Trying to stop every thought can turn into another battle. You push the thought away and it returns stronger. You tell yourself not to think about it, and the mind grips it harder. You become frustrated that you are not peaceful yet, and now you are anxious about being anxious. But letting the thought exist without obeying it breaks the cycle. It says, "You may be here, but you do not get to decide what I do with my night." This is calm authority, not control through force, control through permission and boundary. The thought may pass through, the body may feel a wave, the heart may tighten for a moment, but you do not need to chase the wave. You do not need to turn one spark into a fire. You do not need to make a small mental sound into a whole emergency. And this matters because emergencies are expensive inside the body. Every time you treat a thought as danger, your system spends energy. It releases tension. It raises alertness. It keeps you awake. It prepares you to act, even when there is nothing to do. Over time, the body begins to forget what calm feels like. It starts expecting the next alarm. Even rest begins to feel suspicious. But peace can be retrained, slowly, gently, night after night. You retrain it by meeting a thought and not rushing, by noticing a worry and not arguing, by hearing fear and not giving it the whole room, by reminding the body, "This is not an emergency, this is a thought." That sentence may feel small, but repeated with patience, it becomes a new pathway inside you. This is not an emergency. This is a thought. This is not danger. This is discomfort. This is not a command. This is a passing message. This is not something I must solve before sleep. Each phrase lowers the heat. Each phrase teaches the mind a new rhythm. Each phrase separates awareness from panic. And in that separation, you become free. You may still have thoughts. You may still have concerns. You may still have memories that rise when the room becomes quiet. But they no longer get automatic authority over your body. They no longer get to drag your heart into every imagined crisis. They no longer get to turn the sacred hour of rest into a meeting place for fear. Tonight, let the mind speak in the background without giving it the microphone. Let the thoughts pass like footsteps outside a closed door. You can hear them without opening. You can notice them without inviting them in. You can be aware without being consumed. Because rest does not require an empty mind. Rest requires a mind that no longer treats every thought as an emergency. So if a thought comes now, let it come softly. Do not chase it. Do not judge it. Do not wrestle it to the ground. See it. Name it. Place it down. This is worry. This is memory. This is planning. This is fear. Then return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to the quiet truth beneath all the noise. You are here. You are breathing. The night is not asking you to answer everything. And before morning comes, may you learn this deeply. A thought can knock without being allowed to enter. A fear can speak without being crowned as truth. A worry can rise without becoming your ruler. You do not have to live at the speed of every thought. You can slow down. You can choose. You can rest. And once you stop treating every thought as an emergency, the night becomes less like a battlefield and more like a doorway. A doorway between what has already happened and what has not yet come. But many people never cross that doorway with peace. They drag the whole day through it. They bring every word, every pressure, every mistake, every unfinished task, and every small disappointment into the room. And then they wonder why sleep will not hold them. But the soul cannot rest while the day is still alive inside it. There is a quiet freedom that begins when you stop trying to keep today alive after it has already ended. Every day asks something from you. It asks for your attention, your energy, your patience, your strength, your voice, your silence, your decisions. Some days ask gently. Other days take more than they should. They leave you with a heavy chest, a crowded mind, tired eyes, and a heart that feels as if it has been touched by too many hands. And because you are human, you carry pieces of the day with you. A conversation that did not feel right, a look you did not understand, a duty you did not finish, a word you wish you had said differently, a moment where you felt small, unseen, or misunderstood. Then night comes, but the mind does not always know how to close the door. It keeps the day breathing. It repeats the sentence. It replays the mistake. It checks the wound. It returns to the task. It tries to polish what has already passed. It tries to edit a moment that time has already taken away. And this is where suffering grows, not from the day itself, but from refusing to let the day die when its hour is over. The ancient discipline of letting the day die before sleep is not about hating the day. It is not about pretending nothing happened. It is not about avoiding responsibility. It is the practice of honoring time. It is saying, this day has given what it had to give. I have taken what I can learn. I have done what I could do. Now I release the rest back to the silence. The Stoics understood the importance of ending the day with reflection, but reflection is not rumination. Reflection is clear. Rumination is heavy. Reflection teaches. Rumination punishes. Reflection says, what can I learn? Rumination says, why am I like this? Reflection leads to wisdom. Rumination leads to exhaustion. So before sleep, the work is not to replay the day until it hurts. The work is to gather the lesson and leave the weight. There is a difference between carrying wisdom and carrying wounds. Wisdom is light enough to take into tomorrow. Wounds become heavier when you keep pressing them in the dark. If you made a mistake today, take the lesson. If someone hurt you today, take the boundary. If something disappointed you today, take the truth. If something frightened you today, take the reminder that you survived it. But do not take the whole emotional storm into your bed. Your bed was not made to become a second version of the day. It was made to receive the part of you that has had enough. This is hard for people who have lived too long in survival mode. When you are used to being alert, letting the day end can feel unsafe. The mind thinks, if I let go, I will lose control. If I stop thinking, I will miss something. If I rest, I may become careless. But this is fear speaking in the voice of responsibility. Real responsibility knows when to stop. Real wisdom knows that a mind that never closes cannot stay clear. Real strength knows that tomorrow's courage is built into night's release. To let the day die, you must stop asking it to become perfect. Many people cannot sleep because they are still trying to repair the emotional shape of the day. They want every conversation to feel settled, every task to feel complete, every decision to feel certain, every person to understand them, every mistake to be erased, every feeling to be resolved. But no day ends perfectly. Even good days leave loose threads. Even peaceful days leave unfinished thoughts. Even successful days carry something that could have been better. If you demand a perfect day before you allow yourself to rest, you will make sleep a reward you rarely receive. But sleep is not only for the people who got everything right. Sleep is also for the person who tried and stumbled. The person who spoke too quickly and now feels regret. The person who stayed quiet and now wonders if they should have spoken. The person who worked hard but still did not finish enough. The person who smiled while feeling tired. The person who carried invisible battles and still made it to the night. You do not have to earn rest by becoming faultless. Letting the day die means accepting that today was human, not perfect, not ruined, human. It had light and shadow. It had effort and weakness. It had small victories and quiet losses. It had moments you handled well and moments that revealed where you are still healing. And now, as the night deepens, you can stop holding it up for judgment. You can lay it down. A simple practice before sleep is to review the day like a calm witness, not like an angry judge. Let the day pass through the mind briefly. See what happened. Notice where you acted with patience. Notice where you lost yourself. Notice what drained you. Notice what strengthened you. Then choose one lesson, one gratitude, and one release. One lesson. This is what today taught me. One gratitude. This is what today gave me. One release. This is what I will not carry into sleep. This is enough. You do not need a full trial. You do not need to investigate every feeling. You do not need to punish every weakness. One lesson, one gratitude, one release. Then the day can close. Because every day deserves a burial, not a bitter burial, a peaceful one. You place it in the ground of time and stop digging it back up. You do not keep dragging yesterday's dust into tomorrow's air. You do not keep asking a finished hour to give you a different ending. You do not keep demanding that your past become softer before you allow your body to soften. Some things can only become softer when you stop touching them. This is why the night must be protected. The final minutes before sleep are not small. They are the bridge between the life you live today and the life you will meet tomorrow. If you fill that bridge with regret, fear, and pressure, you cross into morning already tired. But if you fill it with release, acceptance, and quiet discipline, you cross with more dignity. The mind needs a closing ritual, not something complicated, not something dramatic, just a signal that says, the day is complete. Maybe it is turning off the light slowly. Maybe it is placing the phone away from your reach. Maybe it is breathing deeply and saying, I give this day back. Maybe it is placing one hand on the chest and allowing the body to feel that nothing more is required right now. This small act matters because the nervous system learns through repetition. If every night ends with worry, the body begins to expect worry. But if every night ends with release, the body slowly remembers how to descend, how to loosen, how to trust the dark again. And trust is important here. To let the day die, you must trust that what matters will return when you have strength to meet it. You must trust that a mistake can be repaired later. You must trust that an unfinished task can wait. You must trust that the lesson will remain even if the emotional pain fades. You must trust that you are not abandoning your life by resting from it. The Stoic mind does not cling to the day because clinging does not change what happened. It only keeps the spirit tied to what cannot be moved. The wise mind accepts the finality of the day and says, "What is done is done. What can be learned has been learned. What remains will be met in its proper time." There is peace in that sentence. What is done, not as defeat, but as freedom. Because once you stop wrestling with what has already passed, energy returns to you. The body stops bracing against yesterday's moments. The heart stops begging old scenes to become different. The mind stops wasting its light on closed doors. Tonight, let the day become a completed chapter, not because it was perfect, but because it is over. Let the words people said fall back into silence. Let the mistakes become teachers instead of chains. Let the unfinished work wait outside the room. Let the parts of you that tried so hard be seen with compassion. You lived this day. You carried it. You moved through it. And now you are allowed to release it. Say quietly to yourself, "This day is finished. I do not need to keep it alive with worry. I do not need to punish myself for being human. I do not need to carry its noise into my sleep. I take the lesson. I keep the gratitude. I release the rest." And as those words settle, feel how the night makes room for you. Not the version of you who must perform, not the version who must explain, not the version who must fix, prove, answer, or endure. Just the tired human being beneath it all, the one who has needed permission to stop. Before sleep, let today die with dignity. Let its trouble return to time. Let its lessons remain without its weight. Let its noise fade without your permission to continue. Because tomorrow cannot be born gently in a mind that refuses to let today end. And tonight, you are learning one of the oldest forms of peace. Close the day, bless what it taught you, forgive what it revealed, and let the soul enter sleep empty enough to be renewed. And after you learn to let the day die before sleep, you begin to notice why the mind keeps reaching beyond the present. It does not only want rest, it wants guarantees. It wants to know tomorrow will be safe before tomorrow arrives. It wants every answer before the question has fully opened. It wants certainty before life is ready to give it. And when certainty does not come, anxiety grows in the empty space. There is a quiet suffering that begins when the mind demands answers from a future that has not spoken yet. You may be lying there in the dark, not because something terrible has happened, but because something is unknown. You do not know how a person feels. You do not know how a situation will end. You do not know if your effort will work. You do not know if your body will feel better. You do not know if money will stretch far enough. You do not know if the message will come. You do not know if tomorrow will be gentle or difficult. And because the mind hates not knowing, it begins to fill the silence with fear. This is one of anxiety's oldest habits. When life does not provide a clear answer, the anxious mind invents one. And it rarely invents peace. It invents rejection. It invents failure. It invents danger. It invents loss. It invents humiliation. It invents the worst ending, then calls that ending preparation. But not knowing is not the same as being unsafe. This is where many people become trapped at night. The mind thinks uncertainty is a threat. It treats every blank space as a warning. It says, "If I do not know, I must worry. If I do not have the answer, I must search harder. If I cannot control the outcome, I must keep thinking until I feel safe." But the feeling of safety does not always come through more thinking. Sometimes it comes through surrendering the demand to know everything before it's time. The Stoics understood that human beings suffer when they try to own what does not belong to them. The future does not fully belong to you. Other people's thoughts do not belong to you. The timing of life does not belong to you. The hidden movement of events does not belong to you. What belongs to you is your character in the face of what is uncertain, your patience, your courage, your honesty, your discipline, your ability to return to the present when the mind runs ahead looking for guarantees. Certainty feels comforting because it gives the mind something to hold. But life does not always offer certainty at the moment we want it. Sometimes life gives only enough light for the next step, not the whole road, not the final answer, not the perfect promise, just the next breath, the next choice, the next quiet act of trust. Anxiety grows when the mind rejects that small light, because it wants the whole sky. And this is why the demand for certainty becomes painful. It turns natural uncertainty into personal punishment. It says, I cannot rest until I know. But what if you are not meant to know tonight? What if tonight is not the hour for answers? What if the answer requires time, another person, a new day, a clearer mind, or an event that has not unfolded yet? What if the demand to know is causing more suffering than the unknown itself? Sometimes the mind asks questions that no tired body can answer. Will everything be okay? Will they stay? Will I succeed? Will I heal? Will I be understood? Will I make the right choice? Will tomorrow be easier? These questions may come from a tender place. They may come from a heart that has been hurt before and wants protection. But tenderness becomes torment when every question becomes a command for immediate certainty. A wise mind learns to say, I do not know yet, and I can still rest. That sentence may feel strange at first. It may feel too simple. It may even feel impossible. But it holds a deep freedom, because the goal is not to force yourself to stop caring. The goal is to stop making your peace depend on information you do not have. There is a difference between wanting clarity and demanding certainty. Clarity asks, what is the next honest step? Certainty asks, can I be promised there will be no pain? Clarity helps you move. Certainty freezes you. Clarity belongs to wisdom. Certainty, when demanded too early, becomes fear in disguise. Before sleep, you do not need to know everything. You need to return to what is already true. You are here. You are breathing. This moment is not asking you to solve the whole future. The bed beneath you is holding your body. The night is not demanding perfection. Life is unfinished, but unfinished does not mean doomed. The anxious mind wants to treat the unknown like an enemy, but the unknown is also where mercy can enter. The unknown is where better answers can form. The unknown is where people can surprise you, doors can open, strength can rise, healing can begin, and outcomes can soften in ways you could not predict from a frightened midnight mind. If you only use uncertainty to predict pain, you forget that uncertainty also means the painful ending is not guaranteed. The mind says, I do not know what will happen. Anxiety says, then it must be bad. But wisdom says, if I do not know, then I do not know. I will not use my ignorance as evidence against my peace. This is a powerful practice. To stop turning the unknown into proof of disaster. To stop treating unanswered questions as secret warnings. To stop believing that fear has better vision than patience. Because fear does not see the future. It only paints the future with old pain. If you have been disappointed before, fear may tell you disappointment is coming again. If you have been abandoned before, fear may say silence means abandonment. If you have failed before, fear may say uncertainty means failure. But fear is not prophecy. Fear is memory wearing the mask of prediction. The Stoic discipline is to remove that mask. You can say, "This is not knowledge. This is fear, asking for certainty." You can say, "This is not proof. This is my mind trying to protect me too early." You can say, "This question may matter, but it does not need to be answered tonight." And the body slowly begins to understand. The chest does not have to tighten around tomorrow's unknown. The stomach does not have to hold every unanswered question. The hands do not have to grip the blanket as if control can be found there. The face does not have to carry the weight of a future that has not arrived. You can soften around uncertainty. You can let it exist without letting it rule. This does not mean you become passive. It means you become patient. It means you stop wasting tonight's strength on answers that belong to another hour. It means you prepare where preparation is possible, then release where control ends. There is dignity in saying, "I have done what I can for now." There is maturity in saying, "The rest is not mine tonight." There is peace in saying, "I can meet the unknown without becoming its prisoner." Most anxiety is not only fear of what may happen, it is fear of not being able to handle what may happen. But look at your life. How many things have you already met? How many difficult mornings have you entered? How many heavy seasons have you crossed? How many times did you think you would not manage, yet somehow you continued? Your life is evidence that you have carried more than your anxious mind remembers at night. So when the mind demands certainty too early, give it something better than certainty. Give it trust, not blind trust that everything will happen exactly as you want, but deeper trust that you will meet what comes with the strength available at that time. Trust that the answer may be clearer when the hour arrives. Trust that morning may bring steadier judgment. Trust that the unknown is not automatically your enemy. Tonight, you do not need to force the future open. You do not need to shake life until it gives you a promise. You do not need to stay awake as payment for certainty. You do not need to become a prisoner of questions that cannot be answered in the dark. Let the unknown remain unknown. Let the unanswered remain unanswered. Let the future remain unopened. This is not weakness. This is the ancient strength of a mind that no longer begs life to reveal everything before its season. The seed does not demand the tree before morning. The river does not demand the ocean at the first turn. The moon does not demand sunrise before its hour. Everything unfolds by time, and your life is allowed to unfold too. Before morning comes, let this truth rest gently inside you. Anxiety grows when the mind demands certainty too early, but peace grows when the soul learns to wait without fear. You may not have every answer tonight, but you have this breath. You have this moment. You have the choice to stop turning mystery into danger. And for now, that is enough. And as the mind learns to wait without demanding certainty too early, another deeper skill becomes possible. You begin to see fear not as a master, but as something that can be named, something that can be noticed, something that can stand before you without becoming you. Because the moment you name a fear clearly, you stop being trapped inside its shadow. You begin to hold it at a distance. You begin to see its shape. And what can be seen clearly does not control you as easily. There is a quiet power in saying, "This is fear," instead of saying, "This is my future." Fear grows strongest when it stays nameless, when it moves through the chest like a dark pressure, when it becomes a heavy feeling without a clear face, when it sits in the stomach, tightens the throat, speeds up the thoughts, and makes the whole world feel unsafe without explaining why. That kind of fear can make you obey before you even understand what you are obeying. You may not know exactly what you are afraid of, but you still feel driven by it. You check the phone again. You replay the sentence again. You try to solve the future again. You apologize when you have done nothing wrong, You stay silent when you need to speak. You overthink a small moment until it becomes larger than your peace, and all the while fear hides behind the feeling. It does not announce itself. It simply pulls the strings. This is why naming fear is a Stoic art. The Stoics knew that a thing becomes less powerful when the mind can look at it directly, not with panic, not with shame, not with hatred, with clear attention. They understood that the first step to freedom is not destroying the feeling, but identifying it. Because when you name a fear, you stop confusing it with truth, destiny, or command. You say, "This is fear of being rejected." You say, "This is fear of failing." You say, "This is fear of being misunderstood." You say, "This is fear of losing control." You say, "This is fear of not being enough." You say, "This is fear of the unknown." And suddenly the storm has edges. It is not everything. It is one thing. It is not the whole night. It is one visitor inside the night. It is not your identity. It is a passing state inside your mind and body. That small separation matters. Because when fear is unnamed, it becomes the atmosphere. You breathe it without noticing. You see through it without questioning. It colors every thought, every memory, every expectation. But when you name it, fear becomes an object in the room of awareness. You are no longer inside it completely. You are looking at it, and the one who can look is already larger than the thing being looked at. This is where many people make a mistake. They think naming fear means weakness. They think admitting fear gives it power. But the opposite is true. What remains hidden gains power. What is brought into calm awareness begins to lose its grip. A person who cannot say, "I am afraid," may spend the whole night acting from fear. But a person who can say, "Fear is here," has already begun to return to wisdom. Notice the difference between "I am afraid" and "fear is here." The first can feel like identity. The second creates space. Fear is here means fear is present, but it is not the whole of you. It is visiting, but it is not ruling. It is speaking, but it is not your king. You can listen without obeying. You can acknowledge without surrendering. You can feel the wave without letting it decide where your life must go. This is not denial. This is mature awareness. Fear often wants immediate action. It wants you to send the message now. Decide now. Escape now. Defend now. Prepare now. Prove yourself now. Fix everything now. But naming fear slows the command. It gives you a sacred pause. You can say, "Before I act, let me see what is moving me. Is this wisdom or panic? Is this care or control? Is this a true warning or an old wound? Is this response coming from clarity or from fear asking to be obeyed?" That pause is where freedom lives, because fear is not always evil. Sometimes fear is a signal. It may point to something that needs attention. It may show where you need a boundary. It may reveal where you feel unprepared. It may remind you of something important. But fear becomes destructive when it moves from signal to ruler. A signal says, "Look here." A ruler says, "Obey me now." The Stoic learns to respect the signal without becoming the servant. This is a rare balance. Many people either ignore fear completely or surrender to it completely. They push it down until it returns stronger, or they follow it until they lose themselves. But the Stoic path is neither suppression nor slavery. It is examination. It says, "Fear, I see you. Now tell me what you are. Then I will decide what belongs to me." Before sleep, this matters deeply because fear becomes more dramatic in the dark. A fear that could be named in daylight may become a monster at midnight. Fear of a difficult conversation becomes fear of losing everything. Fear of a mistake becomes fear of being ruined. Fear of uncertainty becomes fear that life is falling apart. This is why you must bring the fear back down to its true size. Ask gently, what is this fear called? Not, how do I make it disappear immediately? Not, why am I like this? Not, what is wrong with me? Just, what is this fear called? If the mind says, I am scared about tomorrow, look closer. Is it fear of judgment? Fear of failure? Fear of conflict? Fear of disappointment? Fear of not being able to handle pressure? The more clearly you name it, the less it can spread everywhere. A named fear becomes specific. A specific fear becomes workable. A workable fear becomes less terrifying. For example, if the fear is, I am afraid I will fail tomorrow, then the Stoic response is not endless panic. The response is, what part belongs to me? Preparation belongs to you. Effort belongs to you. Honesty belongs to you. Showing up belongs to you. The result may not fully belong to you. Other people's opinions may not belong to you. Timing may not belong to you. Once you know this, fear loses its throne. It may still sit in the room, but it no longer controls the room. If the fear is, I am afraid someone will leave, the response is not to spend the night begging the mind for certainty. The response is, love cannot be controlled by panic. Connection cannot be protected by destroying my peace. I can act with care, but I cannot force another person's heart to become predictable. That truth may ache, but it is cleaner than anxiety. It gives you dignity. If the fear is, I am afraid I am not enough, then name it with compassion. This is not proof. This is an old wound speaking. This is the voice of comparison. This is tiredness pressing on self-worth. This is the mind mistaking one difficult feeling for the whole truth of who I am. When fear is named this way, it becomes less mysterious. And what is less mysterious becomes less commanding. The next part of the practice is to refuse the contract fear offers you. Fear will say, serve me and I will keep you safe. It will promise protection in exchange for your sleep. It will say, keep thinking, keep checking, keep controlling, keep preparing, keep shrinking, keep pleasing, keep watching for danger. But fear cannot give the peace it keeps stealing. It cannot lead you to rest by keeping you alert. It cannot make you free by making you obey. So you answer gently, I hear you, but I will not serve you tonight. This is not harsh. It is holy. It is the voice of inner leadership. It is the part of you that has suffered enough from bowing to every anxious demand. It is the part of you that knows you can feel fear and still choose rest. You can feel uncertainty and still choose breath. You can feel the old ache and still choose not to reopen the wound. Your fear may not leave immediately. That is okay. The goal is not to force it out. The goal is to change your relationship with it. Instead of being dragged by fear, you sit beside it. Instead of becoming fear, you observe it. Instead of serving fear, you guide yourself with wisdom. Tonight, if fear rises, give it a name. Say, this is fear of tomorrow. Say, this is fear of being hurt. Say, this is fear of losing control. Say, this is fear from the past. Say, this is fear, not truth. Then place one hand gently on the body and remind yourself, a fear has been named, but it has not been crowned. Because that is the difference. Naming fear gives it honesty. Crowning fear gives it authority. You can be honest without surrendering authority. You can say, yes, fear is here, and still say, no, fear will not lead. And slowly the night changes. The fear that once filled the whole room becomes smaller. The thought that once sounded like a command becomes a whisper. The body that once braced for danger begins to soften. The mind realizes it does not have to be fearless to be free. It only has to stop serving every fear as if it were a god. Before morning comes, let this settle deeply. Fear may visit, but it does not own the house. Fear may speak, but it does not write your life. Fear may rise in the dark, but it does not become truth simply because it arrived loudly. Name it, see it, breathe around it. Then let it stand outside the throne of your peace. You are not here to become fearless tonight. You are here to become free enough to rest, even while fear is still learning its place. And after you learn to name fear without becoming its servant, you begin to see another pattern clearly. Fear does not always come with a real event. Sometimes it comes with a picture the mind created, a future scene, a painful ending, a disaster that has not happened, yet somehow already feels heavy in your chest. And if you are not careful, you begin negotiating with it as if it is real. You start bargaining with shadows. You start preparing speeches for pain that has not arrived. You start losing peace to a story that exists only in the mind. There is a deep weariness that comes from defending yourself against things that are not here. The mind says, "What if they leave?" So you begin thinking of how you will survive the loneliness. The mind says, "What if tomorrow fails?" So you begin planning how you will recover from the shame. The mind says, "What if something terrible happens?" So you begin tightening your body as if the terrible thing is already standing beside you. And before anything has actually happened, your peace has already been spent. This is how imaginary disasters steal real rest. They do not need to become true to hurt you. They only need your belief. They only need your attention. They only need you to sit with them long enough, argue with them long enough, answer them long enough, and feed them with enough emotion until the body can no longer tell the difference between a thought and an event. The Stoics would call this a misuse of the inner world. The mind was given to us for judgment, wisdom, and choice, but anxiety turns it into a theater of possible pain. It brings a scene to the front of the mind and says, "Look at this, prepare for this, solve this, prevent this." But the scene is not here. The danger is not here. The hour has not come. The evidence has not arrived. Still, you suffer as if it has. This is why peace begins when you stop negotiating with imaginary disasters. Negotiation sounds like this. If that happens, what will I do? If they say this, how will I respond? If I lose that, how will I recover? If everything falls apart, how will I survive? At first, these questions can feel responsible, but after a while, you may notice they do not bring peace. They bring more branches. One question becomes 5, 5 become 20. The mind starts building escape routes from fires that are not burning. It starts writing emergency plans for storms that may never form, and every plan creates a new fear. This is the trap. Anxiety tells you that if you negotiate long enough, you will finally feel safe. But imaginary disasters are endless. There is always another possibility, another detail, another worst-case ending, another painful version of the future. You cannot negotiate with something that keeps changing shape. You cannot defeat a shadow by arguing with it. You cannot win peace by answering every what if the mind creates. At some point, you must stop the conversation. Not angrily, not with force, but with clear authority. You say, "This is not happening now." You say, "I will not suffer a future that has not arrived." You say, "This thought may be possible, but possible is not present." You say, "I do not owe my peace to every frightening picture my mind can create." That last sentence is important. You do not owe your peace to every frightening picture your mind can create, because the mind can create many things. It can create rejection from silence. It can create failure from uncertainty. It can create danger from discomfort. It can create a whole painful ending from one small sign. If you believe every picture, you will live in constant alarm. not because life is always dangerous, but because imagination has been allowed to behave like reality. The Stoic practice is to return to what is actually here, not what could happen, not what might happen, not what once happened, not what fear says will happen. What is here? Your body is in bed, the room is quiet, the breath is moving, the night is present, the future is unopened, the disaster is not here, the painful conversation is not here, the loss is not here, the failure is not here, the unknown is here, yes, but the unknown is not the same as disaster. This is how the mind begins to come back from the edge. The anxious mind often uses possibility as proof. It says, because this could happen, I must suffer now. But many things could happen. Something difficult could happen. Something neutral could happen. Something better than expected could happen. Something you never considered could happen. The fact that pain is possible does not make pain certain. And the fact that something is uncertain does not mean fear has the right to occupy your whole night. You are allowed to live in the present, even when the future has risks. That is not foolishness. That is sanity. Because if you wait for a future without any risk before you allow yourself to rest, you will never rest. Life has never promised complete certainty. Even the calmest life contains unknowns. Even the strongest person cannot see every turn. Even the wisest soul must sleep without knowing everything. Peace is not found by removing all possible danger from the future. Peace is found by refusing to let possible danger rule the present. There is a difference between wise preparation and anxious negotiation. Wise preparation is limited. It does what can be done, then stops. It says, I have taken the next reasonable step. Anxious negotiation has no ending. It says, what else could go wrong? Wise preparation leaves room for sleep. Anxious negotiation demands the whole night. Wise preparation strengthens you. Anxious negotiation drains you before anything has happened. So tonight, if the mind presents a disaster, do not sit down at the table with it. Do not ask it for more details. Do not let it open maps, scenes, speeches, endings, and punishments. See it for what it is, a mental picture, a fear story, a possible future pretending to be a present command. Then return to the body. Feel the weight of yourself on the bed. Feel the air entering gently. Feel the hands resting. Feel the face softening. The body is always more honest about the present than the anxious mind. The mind may travel 10 years ahead in fear, but the body is here. The breath is here. The bed is here. The night is here. And if you come back to the body, you come back to the only moment where peace can actually live. The Stoics did not believe peace came from controlling outcomes. They believed peace came from controlling the relationship between your mind and its impressions. An impression appears. Something bad may happen. The untrained mind obeys. The trained mind pauses. It says, you are only an impression. I will not hand you my entire night. This is not pretending life has no difficulties. It is refusing to rehearse pain before its time. It is refusing to give imaginary disasters the same authority as real duties. It is refusing to let fear use your intelligence against you. Because that is what anxiety often does. It takes your imagination, your care, your memory, your ability to plan, your ability to think deeply, and it turns those gifts into weapons against your rest. The same mind that could create solutions begins creating storms. The same heart that could love deeply begins preparing for loss. The same awareness that could guide you begins scanning for every hidden danger. But you can take those gifts back. You can use imagination for calm instead of catastrophe. You can use memory for wisdom instead of punishment. You can use planning for simple next steps instead of endless emergency rehearsals. You can use awareness to notice the present, not just scan for pain. And the first step is to stop negotiating. When the disaster appears, you do not have to prove it wrong. You do not have to solve it. You do not have to debate it until the mind feels satisfied. The mind may never feel satisfied. Fear always wants one more answer, one more plan, one more check, one more reason, one more guarantee. So you offer no long argument. You simply say, "Not here, not now." This is a boundary, a quiet door closing, a return to the truth of the moment. Not here, not now. The future may bring something difficult, but it is not here now. A person may disappoint you, but that scene is not here now. A task may challenge you, but the challenge is not here now. Life may ask courage from you, but this moment is asking rest from you. And you must learn to respect what this moment is asking. Tonight is not asking you to become fearless. It is asking you to stop feeding fear with imaginary evidence. Tonight is not asking you to deny the future. It is asking you to stop letting the future invade the room before it has arrived. Tonight is not asking you to be careless. It is asking you to understand that worry without action is not protection. It is exhaustion. So let the mind release the false meeting. Cancel the negotiation with the disaster. Leave the imagined courtroom. Step away from the future argument. Put down the emergency plan for a storm that has not formed. Let the unknown return to being unknown instead of dressing it in terror. And as you do, something gentle begins to happen. The nervous system feels less threatened. The body stops preparing for an event that is not present. The breath becomes easier. The mind becomes less crowded. You begin to realize that you were not trapped by the future. You were trapped by the conversation you kept having with it. Before morning comes, remember this. Imaginary disasters do not need your cooperation. They may appear, but you do not have to host them. They may speak, but you do not have to answer. They may show you frightening pictures, but you do not have to step inside them. Peace begins when you stop negotiating with what is not real. Stop paying tonight's calm for tomorrow's possibilities, and return to the only place where your life is actually happening. Here, now, in this breath, in this quiet, in this body that deserves to rest before any future asks anything more from it. And after you stop negotiating with imaginary disasters, you begin to notice the next trap anxiety sets before sleep. It calls itself preparation. It sounds serious. It sounds mature. It sounds like you are simply being responsible. But somewhere in the dark, preparation can turn against you. It can stop helping you and start hurting you. It can stop making you ready and start making you afraid. And when that happens, the mind is no longer preparing for tomorrow. It is punishing you for not being able to control it. There is a quiet line between getting ready for life and making yourself suffer in advance. At first, preparation feels useful. You think through what needs to be done. You remember a task. You plan what to say. You consider what may be needed. You gather your strength around what matters. This is healthy. This is wise. This is the mind doing what it was made to do. It is looking ahead with care, choosing the next step, and helping you meet life with more steadiness. But then something changes. The thought repeats again. The plan gets checked again. The same worry comes back in a different form. The same future scene plays from another angle. You ask one more question, then another, then another. You are no longer becoming clearer. You are becoming tighter. You are no longer preparing your mind. You are exhausting it. You are no longer building a path into tomorrow. You are walking in circles inside a room with no door. This is when preparation becomes mental punishment. Preparation has an ending. Mental punishment does not. Preparation says, "This is what I can do." Mental punishment says, "What if that is not enough?" Preparation says, I will handle the next step. Mental punishment says, you must handle every possible ending before you sleep. Preparation leaves the body calmer. Mental punishment leaves the body tense. Preparation respects your limits. Mental punishment treats your limits as failure. And this difference matters deeply, especially at night, because anxiety is clever. It does not always enter the mind looking like fear. Sometimes it enters dressed like discipline. It says, you need to think about this because it matters. It says, you need to go over it again so you do not make a mistake. It says, you need to stay alert because life can change suddenly. And because you care about your life, you listen. But care without boundaries becomes torment. The Stoics believed in preparation, but not the kind that destroys the person preparing. They reflected on life. They considered difficulty. They trained the mind to meet loss, change, insult, delay, disappointment, and uncertainty with courage. But their preparation had a purpose. It was meant to make the soul stronger, not more afraid. It was meant to reduce panic, not create it. It was meant to remind them what was within their control, not trap them inside everything beyond it. Real preparation leads you back to power. Mental punishment keeps pointing at helplessness. This is how you can know the difference. Ask yourself, after thinking about this, do I feel more able to act or more afraid to exist? That question is honest. If the thought gives you one clear step, it may be preparation. If the thought only gives you more dread, more shame, more pressure, and more helplessness, it has crossed into punishment. A true plan gives the mind a place to rest. A fear loop gives the mind another reason to keep running. For example, if tomorrow has something important, preparation may say, set the clothes out, write the key points, set the alarm, rest now. That is enough. It is clean, it is practical, it serves you. But mental punishment says, what if you forget your words? What if they judge you? What if something goes wrong? What if this proves you are not ready? What if one mistake ruins everything? This does not prepare you. It drains the very energy you need to show up well. Or if there is a difficult conversation ahead, preparation may say, speak honestly, stay calm, listen before responding, do not abandon yourself. That is useful. But mental punishment says, replay every possible response, defend yourself against every imagined accusation, prepare for rejection, prepare for humiliation, prepare for being misunderstood forever. This is not wisdom. This is fear building a prison with the materials of your imagination. And the painful thing is, many people mistake this prison for responsibility. They think, if I stop thinking, I am being careless. But that is not true. Sometimes the careless thing is to keep thinking until you damage the mind that tomorrow needs. Sometimes the responsible thing is to stop, to close the mental file, to let the body sleep, to trust that a rested mind will handle the real moment better than a punished mind can handle an imagined one. You do not become more prepared by becoming more wounded. You do not become safer by staying tense all night. You do not become wiser by replaying fear until your peace disappears. The Stoic practice asks for a simple boundary. Do what can be done, then release what cannot be controlled. That boundary is not weakness. It is one of the strongest forms of discipline. Because the anxious mind does not like boundaries. It wants endless access to your attention. It wants to pull you back into the same concern again and again. It wants to convince you that one more round of thinking will finally bring peace. But peace rarely comes after the 100th thought. Peace usually begins when you stop giving the thought unlimited permission. So tonight, when the mind says, think about this again, you can answer, have we found a new action? If there is a new action, write it down simply. If there is no new action, then the thinking has become a loop. And loops do not deserve your whole night. A loop is not a lesson. A loop is not a plan. A loop is not a warning from wisdom. A loop is the mind circling a fear because it does not know how to place it down. This is why compassion is needed. You do not shame the mind for looping. You do not say, "Why am I like this?" You do not attack yourself for being anxious. You recognize that the mind is trying to protect you, even if its method is hurting you. Then you guide it gently, like a tired guard who has been standing at the gate too long. You say, "Thank you for trying to keep me safe, but we have done enough for tonight." That sentence carries kindness and authority together. Kindness says, "I understand why fear is here." Authority says, "Fear does not decide how long I suffer." This is the balance anxiety needs. If you only use force, the mind fights back. If you only use softness, the mind may keep wandering into danger. But when kindness and authority meet, the body feels safe enough to release, and the mind feels guided enough to stop. Mental punishment often hides inside the word should. I should have known better. I should be stronger. I should have done more. I should have said it differently. I should already have the answer. I should not feel this way. These thoughts do not prepare you. They bruise you. They make the mind believe that every human limitation is a crime. But you are not a machine. You are not meant to process every problem perfectly before sleep. You are not meant to predict every outcome. You are not meant to carry life without pause. You are a human being with a body that needs rest, a mind that needs quiet, and a heart that needs mercy. Preparation asks, what can be improved? Punishment says, what is wrong with you? Preparation teaches. Punishment attacks. Preparation helps you rise. Punishment keeps you bowed down. So if the night brings regret, take only what teaches, leave what insults. If the night brings concern, take only what guides, leave what terrifies. If the night brings tomorrow, take only the next step. Leave the whole imagined disaster outside the door. This is how you protect your inner world. Because not every thought that feels useful is actually useful. Some thoughts are only fear wearing the mask of productivity. Some planning is only panic with a notebook. Some self-correction is only self-criticism pretending to be growth. And some late-night thinking is only the mind trying to earn safety by refusing rest. But safety does not come from punishing yourself enough. Safety begins when you stop treating yourself like the enemy. Before sleep, ask the mind to become simple, not careless, simple. What is the next right thing? What can wait? What is not mine to control? What have I already done? What would I tell someone I loved if they were thinking this way at this hour? That last question can open the heart. Because you would not tell someone you loved to stay awake all night, torturing themselves with every possible failure. You would not tell them they must solve life before morning. You would not tell them rest must be earned by fear. You would speak gently. You would say, "You have done what you can. Sleep now. Tomorrow will be met with more strength." And tonight, you must learn to speak to yourself that way. Not because everything is easy, not because nothing matters, but because you matter too. Your mind matters. Your sleep matters. Your nervous system matters. The part of you that has been trying so hard deserves more than endless interrogation in the dark. So let preparation be preparation. Let it be short, kind, useful, and complete. Let it write the note, set the reminder, choose the next step, and then bow out. And when the mind tries to continue beyond usefulness, recognize the shift. Say, "This is no longer preparation. This is punishment, and I do not have to participate." Then return to the breath. Return to the weight of the body. Return to the quiet room. Return to the truth that no future is helped by a mind that is being hurt tonight. Before morning comes, may you understand this deeply. Being prepared does not mean being afraid longer than necessary. Being responsible does not mean denying yourself rest. Being wise does not mean thinking until you break. True preparation strengthens you for tomorrow. Mental punishment steals you from tonight. And tonight you are allowed to choose strength without suffering. You are allowed to plan briefly, then sleep deeply. You are allowed to care without collapsing. You are allowed to be ready without being cruel to yourself. And after you understand the difference between true preparation and mental punishment, you begin to see why the mind still struggles to let go. It is not only preparing for tomorrow, it is trying to repair everything at once. It wants the past healed, the future secured, the relationship settled, the money figured out, the body calm, the heart certain, the path clear, and the soul finally safe. And somehow it wants all of this before sunrise. But no human life can be fixed in one night, and no tired mind should be asked to carry the work of an entire lifetime in the dark. There is a heavy kind of pain that comes from believing you must become whole before morning. You lie down, but the mind does not lie down with you. It opens every unfinished room inside your life. It points to the dream you have not reached yet, the habit you have not broken yet, the conversation you have not had yet, the wound that still hurts, the mistake that still follows you, the version of yourself you thought you would be by now. And instead of letting one day end, the mind begins reviewing your whole existence as if sleep is only allowed after everything has been corrected. This is why some nights feel so unbearable. You are not only tired from today, you are tired from trying to carry every year, every fear, every regret, every hope, and every unanswered question into one small hour. But your life is not meant to be solved all at once. The Stoics understood that peace comes through returning to the part of life that is actually in your hands. Not the whole road, not the final outcome, not the complete healing of every wound, not the perfect version of your future, just the next honest act, the next wise choice, the next breath taken with awareness, the next moment handled with courage instead of panic. Anxiety tells you that everything must be fixed now. Wisdom tells you that life is repaired by small acts repeated over time. This is important because the need to fix your whole life before sunrise often comes from fear, not clarity. Fear says, if I do not solve everything tonight, tomorrow will crush me. Fear says, if I do not understand my whole path now, I am lost. Fear says, if I still have pain, I have failed. Fear says, if I am not healed yet, something is wrong with me. But these are not truths. They are the voice of a tired nervous system demanding completion from an unfinished human being. And you are allowed to be unfinished. That sentence may feel strange if you have spent years measuring yourself by progress, performance, strength, and control. You may have learned to believe that rest is only deserved after the work is complete. But life's work is never complete. There will always be something to improve, something to understand, something to repair, something to release, something to face. If you wait until everything is fixed before you sleep, you will make rest impossible. Sleep is not the reward for a finished life. Sleep is the mercy that helps you continue living an unfinished one. The mind often confuses urgency with importance. Because something matters deeply, it feels like it must be solved immediately. Because your future matters, you think you must figure it out tonight. Because healing matters, you think you must understand every wound before you close your eyes. Because love matters, you think every relationship must be settled before dawn. But importance does not always mean immediacy. Some things are too important to be handled by a frightened mind at midnight. Your life deserves more than panic planning. Your healing deserves more than desperate searching. Your future deserves more than anxious guessing. Your heart deserves more than being forced to answer questions when it is already exhausted. There is discipline in choosing one thing, one small thing, one next step, one honest promise to yourself. The anxious mind wants to open 10 doors at once. The stoic mind closes 9 and asks, what belongs to this moment? Maybe what belongs to this moment is not fixing your career, your relationships, your past, your identity, your purpose, your finances, your body and your future. Maybe what belongs to this moment is simply putting the hand on the chest and saying, for tonight, I stop turning my life into a problem to be solved. That does not mean your life has no problems. It means you are not a problem. This distinction can soften something deep inside you, because anxiety often makes you feel as if your whole self is broken. It does not say, there is a situation to address. It says, you are behind. You are failing. You are not enough. You must fix everything before anyone notices. And once the mind turns life into a full judgment of your worth, every thought becomes heavier. But one unfinished area of life does not make you a failed person. One struggle does not cancel your value. One slow season does not mean you are lost forever. One painful pattern does not mean you cannot change. One night of anxiety does not mean peace is impossible. You are not here to fix an entire life before sunrise. You are here to give yourself enough gentleness to continue. The Stoic path is not about becoming perfect in one leap. It is about returning again and again to what is within your control. You cannot control how fast every part of your life heals, but you can choose not to attack yourself tonight. You cannot control every result tomorrow, but you can give tomorrow a rested mind. You cannot rewrite your past before morning, but you can stop using the past as a weapon against your sleep. You cannot force the whole future to become clear, but you can take one breath without demanding the whole map. This is how life becomes lighter, not by fixing everything, but by stopping the habit of carrying everything at once. A person who tries to carry a whole mountain will collapse, but a person who picks up one stone at a time can move forward. Anxiety shows you the mountain and says, lift it now. Wisdom points to one stone and says, this is enough for today. The mountain may still be there, but your relationship with it changes. It no longer has to crush you tonight. Before sleep, practice reducing the size of the demand. Instead of asking, how do I fix my whole life? Ask, what is one thing I can meet with more honesty tomorrow? Instead of asking, how do I become completely healed? Ask, what is one way I can be kinder to the part of me that still hurts? Instead of asking, how do I stop all anxiety forever? Ask, can I stop feeding this one anxious thought right now? Small questions bring the mind back to human size. Large, anxious questions often have no answer at night. They only create pressure. They make the soul feel trapped beneath impossible expectations. But small questions open a door. They do not demand perfection. They invite movement. They remind you that life changes through steps, not through midnight self-interrogation. You may not be able to fix everything tonight, but you can release the demand to fix everything tonight. That release is already healing. You can say, I do not need to solve my whole path before morning. You can say, I do not need to become a finished person before I rest. You can say, I can leave some work for time. You can say, I can trust small steps more than anxious pressure. You can say, I am allowed to sleep while my life is still becoming. The phrase, still becoming, is gentle because it tells the truth without cruelty. You are not stuck forever. You are not finished. You are not ruined. You are becoming. Becoming is slow sometimes, Becoming is uneven. Becoming has nights of doubt and mornings of courage. Becoming does not always look beautiful while it is happening, but it is still movement. And if you are becoming, then you do not have to condemn yourself for not being complete. The night can become a place where you stop demanding a final version of yourself. You stop asking the tired mind to provide a perfect answer. You stop making sleep wait outside until anxiety approves your progress. You stop confusing rest with giving up. You stop believing that the future will punish you if you do not worry about it enough. Because worry is not the price of change. You can change with calm. You can grow with patience. You can heal with softness. You can face reality without turning against yourself. You can be honest about what needs work and still be kind to the one doing the work. That is true strength. So tonight, place the unfinished life down gently. Not because it does not matter, but because it matters too much to be handled with fear. Place down the pressure to understand everything. Place down the demand to repair every wound. Place down the belief that you must wake up as a completely different person. Place down the shame of still having questions. Let this night do what nights were made to do. Let it restore what the day has spent. Let it soften what anxiety has tightened. Let it return you to the body. Let it remind you that rest is part of the path, not a break from the path. Before morning comes, remember this. You do not need to fix your whole life before sunrise. You only need to stop treating your life like an emergency that must be solved before you are allowed to breathe. The future will come one day at a time. Healing will come one honest moment at a time. Strength will return one quiet breath at a time. And for tonight, one breath is enough. And after you release the need to fix your whole life before sunrise, the body begins to ask for something deeper than sleep. It asks for permission to stop defending itself. But the body cannot fully rest while the mind keeps acting like a judge. It cannot soften while thoughts are still being dragged into an inner courtroom. Every mistake becomes evidence. Every fear becomes testimony. Every regret becomes a sentence. And the body, listening to all of it, stays tense as if danger is still present. There is a quiet exhaustion that comes from being both the accused and the judge inside your own mind. You lie down, but the trial begins. The mind calls forward the things you said wrong, the moments you should have handled better, the chances you missed, the people you disappointed, the work you did not finish, the emotions you could not control. It brings them one by one into the room and asks you to explain yourself. And before sleep can even come near you, you are already defending your right to be at peace. This is why the body cannot rest. The body listens to the mind more closely than most people realize. When the mind holds court, the body prepares for judgment. The shoulders rise, the chest tightens, the stomach turns, the jaw locks. The face carries a seriousness that belongs to battle, not bedtime. Even when the room is quiet, the body feels the pressure of accusation. It does not know the difference between a real threat outside you and a harsh judgment inside you. It only knows that something feels unsafe. And when the mind keeps saying, "You should have done better," the body hears, "We are in danger." When the mind says, "What if they think badly of me?" the body hears, "We may be rejected." When the mind says, "What if tomorrow proves I am not enough?" the body hears, "Prepare to be wounded." So the body stays awake, not because it hates rest, but because it is waiting for the verdict. This is one of the hidden reasons anxiety feels so physical at night. It is not only thoughts moving through the head. It is the whole body reacting to the mind's judgment. A thought becomes a feeling. A feeling becomes tension. Tension becomes more fear. More fear creates more thoughts. And soon the bed becomes a place where the body is lying still. but the nervous system is standing on trial. The Stoics understood that suffering often begins with the judgments we place on things. An event happens. Then the mind names it terrible, shameful, hopeless, proof, failure, rejection, disaster. The event may already be over, but the judgment keeps it alive. And the body continues to respond, not to the event itself, but to the meaning the mind keeps attaching to it. This is why peace does not begin by winning the inner trial. Peace begins when you stop holding the trial at all. You do not have to prove that you are perfect before you can rest. You do not have to explain every human mistake to the court of your own mind. You do not have to win the argument against shame before sleep becomes allowed. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is put down the gavel and say, "No more judgment tonight." Not everything needs a verdict. Some things only need compassion. Some mistakes only need a lesson. Some painful moments only need space. Some fears only need to be noticed and released. Some unfinished parts of you do not need punishment. They need patience. But the anxious mind often believes punishment will create improvement. It thinks if it criticizes you enough, you will finally change. If it replays the mistake enough, you will never repeat it. If it shames you enough, you will become stronger. But shame does not create true strength. Shame creates tension, hiding, exhaustion, and fear. It may force temporary control, but it does not create peace. It teaches the body that being human is dangerous. And no body can rest deeply while it believes being human is dangerous. The Stoic way is different. It does not ignore mistakes. It simply refuses cruelty. It says, "Look clearly, learn honestly, act better next time, and stop whipping the soul." This is not softness without discipline. It is discipline without hatred. It is the ability to see what needs correction without turning your whole self into a crime. Before sleep, this matters more than you know. Because nighttime is not the hour for self-punishment. It is the hour for restoration. If there is something to correct, you can correct it tomorrow with a clearer mind. If there is something to apologize for, you can do it with a steadier heart. If there is something to improve, improvement will come better from calm responsibility than from midnight cruelty. The mind may ask, "But if I stop judging myself, will I become careless?" No, you will become clearer. A punished mind is not always a wiser mind. A punished mind is often frightened, defensive, and confused. It spends more energy protecting itself from shame than learning from truth. But a mind met with calm honesty can grow. It can say, "Yes, I could have done better," without collapsing into, "I am nothing." It can say, "Yes, this needs attention," without turning the entire night into a courtroom. There is a difference between accountability and accusation. Accountability says, "This happened, and I will respond with wisdom." Accusation says, "This happened, and now I must suffer for who I am." Accountability is clean. Accusation is heavy. Accountability leads to repair. Accusation keeps the wound open. Accountability allows sleep after the lesson is taken. Accusation demands that you keep paying for the same moment again and again. Tonight, choose accountability without accusation. Let the mind speak, but do not let it prosecute. Let the lesson appear, but do not let shame take the chair. Let truth be present, but let kindness stand beside it. Because truth without kindness can become violence inside the soul, and kindness without truth can become avoidance. But together, they create wisdom. You can say, "I see what happened today." You can say, "I see what hurt." You can say, "I see what I wish I had done differently." You can say, "I will carry the lesson, not the sentence." That last line is a key. Carry the lesson, not the sentence. The lesson is useful, the sentence is punishment. The lesson helps tomorrow, the sentence poisons tonight. The lesson teaches your character, the sentence attacks your worth. Your worth does not need to be judged every night. You are allowed to be a person in progress. You are allowed to have days where your patience was thin, your courage was tired, your words were imperfect, your energy was low, your emotions were hard to manage. You are allowed to be learning. You are allowed to still need time. You are allowed to sleep before every part of you has been healed. The body begins to rest when it feels that the war inside has paused. Not solved forever, paused. It needs to feel that no one is attacking it from within. It needs to feel that the mind is no longer throwing charges into the dark. It needs to hear a different inner voice. A voice that says, "You are safe enough to soften. You are not on trial tonight. You do not have to defend your whole existence before sleep." Speak to the body that way. Let the shoulders know they are not responsible for carrying the verdict. Let the chest know it does not have to brace against judgment. Let the stomach know it can release the fear of what might be decided. Let the hands know they can unclench. Let the face become soft again. Let the breath come and go without being watched by worry. The court is closed for tonight. No more witnesses, no more evidence, no more replaying, no more arguments, no more sentencing yourself for being tired, human, afraid, or unfinished. This does not mean everything is forgotten. It means everything is placed in its proper hour. The night is for rest. The morning is for action. The heart is for wisdom. The mind is for guidance, not cruelty. The body is for living, not absorbing every harsh thought as if it were law. Before morning comes, let this truth settle deeply inside you. Your body cannot rest while your mind keeps holding court, because no one sleeps peacefully under constant judgment. So tonight, step down from the judge's seat. Release the case against yourself. Let the lesson remain, but let the punishment end. You have been questioned enough. You have been hard on yourself enough. You have carried the weight of inner judgment long enough. Now let the body believe what the soul has needed to hear. You are not on trial anymore. You are allowed to rest. And once the inner court is closed, once the mind stops judging every thought, every mistake, and every unfinished part of you, a deeper kind of peace becomes possible. You begin to understand that not everything asking for your attention is asking for your action. Not everything that feels heavy belongs in your hands. Not every problem that appears at night is yours to solve at night. Some things must wait for morning. Some things belong to another person. Some things belong to time. Some things belong to life itself. There is a quiet strength in knowing when to put a burden down without calling it failure. For many people, the hardest sentence to say before sleep is simple: "This is not mine to solve tonight." Not because the words are difficult, but because the mind resists them. The mind says, "But what if this gets worse?" The mind says, "But what if someone needs me?" The mind says, "But what if resting means I do not care?" The mind says, "But what if I lose control if I let this go?" And beneath all of that is an old fear. If I stop holding everything together, everything may fall apart. But this is not true. The world has never been held together by your anxiety. You may have carried many things. You may have been the strong one for others, the one who thinks ahead, the one who notices tension, the one who tries to fix the mood before anyone speaks, the one who feels responsible for everyone's comfort, everyone's silence, everyone's anger, everyone's disappointment. And maybe this habit began long ago. Maybe you learned that peace only came when you watched carefully. Maybe you learned that love had to be earned by solving things. Maybe you learned that if someone was upset, It was your job to repair the room. But tonight, the Stoic path invites you into a different kind of strength. Not the strength of carrying everything, the strength of knowing what is truly yours. The Stoics believed that peace begins when we separate what belongs to us from what does not. Your choices belong to you. Your honesty belongs to you. Your effort belongs to you. Your patience belongs to you. Your breath, your attitude, your next wise action, these belong to you. But another person's mood does not belong to you. Tomorrow's outcome does not fully belong to you. The past does not belong to you anymore. The timing of life does not belong to you. The hidden thoughts of other people do not belong to you. And the future, no matter how much you worry over it, does not become yours to control just because you lose sleep over it. This is why the sentence matters. This is not mine to solve tonight. It is not avoidance, it is order. It is placing each burden where it belongs. It is refusing to let anxiety hand you work that wisdom never assigned to you. It is telling the mind, I will not confuse care with control. I will not confuse love with over-responsibility. I will not confuse awareness with obligation. I will not spend the night solving what is not ready, not possible, or not mine. There are some things you cannot solve because the answer has not arrived yet. There are some things you cannot solve because another person must choose their part. There are some things you cannot solve because the wound needs time, not more pressure. There are some things you cannot solve because the body is tired and the mind is not clear. There are some things you cannot solve because they are not problems at all. They are only emotions passing through the dark. But anxiety does not respect these boundaries. Anxiety treats every discomfort as an assignment. If someone is quiet, anxiety says, solve it. If tomorrow is uncertain, anxiety says, solve it. If you feel guilty, anxiety says, solve it. If you remember an old pain, anxiety says, solve it. If your chest feels tight, anxiety says, find the danger and solve it now. And this is how the night becomes crowded with work that no human being can finish. The Stoic skill is to pause before accepting the assignment, to ask, is this mine? And if it is mine, is it mine tonight? These two questions can save your peace, because something may be yours, but not yours at this hour. A conversation may need to happen, but not at midnight inside your head. A decision may need to be made, but not while fear is clouding your judgment. A mistake may need repair, but not through self-punishment in the dark. A plan may need attention, but not when your body is begging for sleep. Timing is part of wisdom. A burden handled at the wrong time can become heavier than it needs to be. A true responsibility carried in the wrong state of mind can turn into panic. A real concern brought into a tired body can become larger than truth. This is why saying "not tonight" is not weakness. It is respect for the right hour. You are allowed to say, "I will meet this when I have light." You are allowed to say, "I will answer this when I have clarity." You are allowed to say, "I will repair this when I have calm." You are allowed to say, "I will think about this when thinking can actually help." There is no virtue in breaking yourself over a problem that cannot be solved before morning. Sometimes the mind believes that if it keeps worrying, it is being loyal. Loyal to the people it loves. Loyal to the dream it wants. Loyal to the future it hopes for. Loyal to the pain it has carried. But worry is not the highest form of loyalty. Peace can be loyal too. Rest can be loyal. Clarity can be loyal. Strength can be loyal. In fact, if you truly care about something, you should not bring it the weakest, most exhausted version of yourself. You should bring it the version of you that has slept. The version of you that can listen without reacting too quickly. The version that can speak without trembling under old fear. the version that can choose without being dragged by panic, the version that can see the next step without confusing it with the whole mountain. This is why rest is not separate from responsibility. Rest protects responsibility from becoming chaos. When you say, "This is not mine to solve tonight," you are not throwing the problem away. You are placing it outside the bedroom of the mind. You are saying, "Wait there. If you are real, I will meet you when I am able. If you are only fear, you will fade without stealing my sleep." That sentence gives dignity back to the night. It tells the body that it does not need to stay ready for every possible demand. It tells the nervous system that it can step down from its watchtower. It tells the heart that love does not require constant alarm. It tells the mind that not every thought is a task. And slowly the body begins to believe you. The hands loosen because they are no longer gripping invisible duties. The jaw softens because it is no longer preparing to defend your choices. The shoulders drop because they are no longer carrying tomorrow's needs, yesterday's pain, and everyone else's emotions. The breath deepens because the body finally receives the message. The work of this hour is not solving. The work of this hour is resting. This does not happen all at once. If you have lived for a long time believing everything is yours to fix, release may feel uncomfortable at first. Peace may even feel irresponsible. The mind may keep reaching for the burden like a hand reaching for something familiar. But familiarity is not proof of truth. You can be used to carrying too much and still not be meant to carry it. You can be skilled at overthinking and still deserve silence. You can be good at rescuing others and still need rest. You can be aware of many problems and still choose not to make your body a home for all of them. The Stoic does not abandon duty. The Stoic refuses false duty. False duty is the belief that you must control what cannot be controlled. False duty is the belief that someone else's emotions are your assignment. False duty is the belief that sleep must wait until every fear has been satisfied. False duty is the belief that peace is selfish when there is still work to do. But there will always be work to do. There will always be someone to think about, something to improve, some unknown thing ahead, some part of life asking for courage. If you wait for a world without demands before you allow yourself to rest, your rest will always be postponed. So tonight, practice the sacred refusal. Refuse the burden that is not yours. Refuse the hour that is not right. Refuse the fear that pretends to be duty. Refuse the thought that says you must fix everything before your body may soften. Say quietly, "This is not mine to solve tonight." And if the mind asks again, say it again. "This is not mine to solve tonight." Not with anger, not with desperation, with calm certainty. Like closing a door gently, like placing a cup down carefully, like laying a heavy coat over a chair after a long day. You are not destroying the thought. You are simply refusing to wear it into sleep. Before morning comes, let this truth settle into the deepest part of you. Not everything that troubles you belongs to you. Not everything that belongs to you belongs to tonight. And not everything that feels urgent is wise. You are allowed to rest without solving everyone. You are allowed to sleep without controlling tomorrow. You are allowed to be kind without being responsible for every outcome. You are allowed to care deeply and still put the burden down. Because peace is not found by answering every demand. Sometimes peace begins with one brave sentence whispered into the dark. "This is not mine to solve tonight." And after you learn to say, "This is not mine to solve tonight," the mind may still try one more trick. It may not bring one great burden. It may bring many small ones. A message you forgot to answer. A task you need to finish. A memory you did not expect. A person you are worried about. A plan for next week. A mistake from years ago. One by one, They open inside you like tabs on a screen, and before you know it, your spirit is not resting. It is switching from thought to thought, trying to keep everything alive. There is a quiet exhaustion that comes from having too many inner windows open at once. Your body may be lying still, but your mind is clicking through everything. One tab says, "Do not forget this." Another says, "What if that goes wrong?" Another says, "Why did they say it like that?" Another says, "You should have done better." Another says, "Tomorrow will be too much." Another says, "Something is missing." And because each thought feels unfinished, the mind keeps returning to it, as if leaving it open will somehow protect you. But an open mental tab is not the same as a solved problem. Many people go to bed with the mind of a person still sitting at a desk. The workday is over, but the inner office is still lit. Papers are everywhere. Conversations are still playing. Decisions are half made. Memories are still open. The mind keeps moving from one thing to another, not because each thing is urgent, but because nothing has been properly closed. This is why sleep can feel far away even when you are tired. The body is ready to shut down, but the mind is still managing too many unfinished signals. The Stoic practice here is not to erase every thought by force. It is to close what does not belong to the night. It is to give each thought a proper place. Some thoughts need a plan. Some need acceptance. Some need forgiveness. Some need patience. Some need to be written down and left alone. Some need to be seen clearly as noise. But none of them need to keep your spirit awake simply because they appeared. A thought appearing is not a command to keep it open. This is where calm inner leadership begins. When a thought comes, you can ask, "What kind of tab is this? Is this a reminder?" Then let it become a note, not a storm. Is this a worry? Then let it become a breath, not a whole night. Is this regret? Then let it become a lesson, not a punishment. Is this fear? Then let it become a named visitor, not a ruler. Is this something beyond my control? Then let it become a release, not a burden. The mind becomes tired when everything receives the same response. If every thought is treated like a crisis, the spirit never rests. If every memory becomes a trial, the heart never softens. If every plan becomes a prediction of disaster, the body never feels safe. So the skill is to sort the thought before you serve it. Not every tab deserves your energy. Not every tab deserves your emotion. Not every tab deserves another hour of attention. Some tabs are only open because you are afraid of forgetting. For these, a small note is enough. Write it down in the simplest way, not a long explanation, not a dramatic confession, just a clear sentence. Call them tomorrow. Pay this. Check that. Ask this question. Once the mind knows the thought has a place, it often stops shouting. It no longer has to keep reminding you from the dark. Some tabs are open because you are seeking emotional control over something you cannot control. A person's mood, a reply that has not come, a future result, a situation that needs time. These cannot be closed by thinking harder. They can only be closed by returning them to their proper owner. You say, "This is not fully mine." I release my grip. That does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop turning care into possession. Some tabs are open because the past is asking for a different ending. These are painful because the mind believes if it replays the scene enough, it may finally become softer. But the past cannot be edited by staying awake. It can only be understood, forgiven, learned from, and released over time. So when the old scene opens, do not enter it fully. Stand at the doorway and say, "I have already lived this. I do not need to live it again tonight." That sentence can be a mercy. You have already lived it. You do not need to live it again tonight. There are also tabs of comparison. These are quiet but heavy. The mind opens the life you thought you would have by now. It opens someone else's progress. It opens the version of yourself you believe you should have become. Then it holds your present life against an imagined standard and calls the difference failure. This kind of tab drains the spirit because it makes sleep feel like defeat, as if resting means accepting that you are behind. But rest is not defeat. Rest is how the unfinished self gathers strength to continue. Close that tab by returning to your own path. Say, I do not need to measure my life tonight. I do not need to judge my progress in the dark. I am allowed to be where I am and still move forward. The night is not the place to compare destinies. The night is the place to return to breath. The Stoics would remind you that the mind must be guarded like a sacred room. You would not let every stranger enter your bedroom at midnight and speak over your bed. Yet many people allow every thought, every fear, every memory, every opinion, every possible future to walk through the mind without boundary. Closing mental tabs is the practice of guarding the doorway. You do not need to be harsh, you only need to be clear. Not this one tonight. This can wait. This has been noted. This is not useful. This belongs to morning. This belongs to someone else. This belongs to time. Each phrase closes a tab. Each phrase returns energy to the body. Each phrase tells the nervous system, we are not working on everything now. And the spirit, which has been kept awake by too many unfinished demands, begins to feel less crowded. Because the spirit does not stay awake only from fear. Sometimes it stays awake from excess. Too much information, too many concerns, too many small decisions, too many emotional leftovers, too many inner conversations that never reach an end. The soul needs simplicity before sleep. It needs fewer open doors, fewer voices, fewer unfinished loops. It needs the mind to become quiet enough for the body to trust the dark. This is why nighttime scrolling often makes the problem worse. Even if the screen distracts you for a while, it opens more tabs inside the mind. More faces, more news, more opinions, more comparisons, more things to remember, desire, fear, judge, question, or process. The body may be still, but the spirit becomes busier. And when the screen finally goes dark, all that noise remains inside. So before sleep, give yourself less. Less input, less argument, less checking, less planning, less explaining, less reaching outward. The night is not asking you to collect more thoughts. It is asking you to close the ones already open. A simple inner practice can help. Picture the mind as a quiet desk at the end of a long day. One paper is a task. Place it in tomorrow's folder. One paper is a regret. Take the lesson and place the rest in release. One paper is a fear. Name it and place it outside the door. One paper is a person you cannot control. Bless them quietly and return them to themselves. One paper is your tired body. Keep that one close. That is the one that needs your attention now. Your body is the open tab that matters tonight. The breath, the weight, the softness of the face, the slow release of the shoulders, the quiet permission to stop. When you return to the body, the mind loses its endless browser of fear. It comes back to the only living page, this moment, this breath, this bed, this night. And the more you practice, the more the mind learns that not every thought must stay open until it is fully solved. Some thoughts close when they are named. Some close when they are written down. Some close when they are released. Some close when you stop feeding them attention. Some close only after time, but even those do not need to keep you awake every night while they heal. You are allowed to close a tab without closing your heart. You are allowed to pause a problem without abandoning it. You are allowed to stop thinking without becoming careless. You are allowed to sleep with things unfinished. Before morning comes, let this be the quiet discipline. Close the tabs that do not belong to this hour. Close the tab of tomorrow's pressure. Close the tab of yesterday's shame. Close the tab of imagined disaster. Close the tab of someone else's emotions. Close the tab of proving, fixing, comparing, rehearsing, and punishing. Leave only one thing open: the gentle awareness that you are here, you are breathing, and for now, this is enough. Because the spirit does not need every question answered before it rests. It only needs to know that the mind will stop opening doors long enough for peace to enter. And after you close the mental tabs that keep your spirit awake, you begin to see the deeper source behind many of them. The mind is not only thinking, it is creating. It is painting scenes, building endings, inventing reactions, designing pain, and then asking the body to suffer as if those images are already real. This is why the night can feel so heavy, not because everything is happening, but because imagination has been turned against your peace. There is a strange sorrow in being hurt by a future your mind created, not by a life you are actually living. At night, imagination becomes powerful because there is less outside noise to balance it. During the day, the world keeps interrupting your fears. Someone speaks. A task needs attention. Light enters the room. Movement pulls you back into reality. But at night, the outer world becomes still and the inner world becomes louder. The mind has space to create, and when anxiety is leading, it rarely creates beauty. It creates danger. It creates rejection. It creates loss. It creates shame. It creates the worst possible version of tomorrow, then places it in front of your heart like evidence. But a picture in the mind is not proof. This is one of the most important truths to carry into sleep. Just because you can see something happening in your mind does not mean life is moving toward it. Just because you can feel the pain of an imagined ending does not mean that ending has begun. Just because the mind can build a disaster with strong detail does not mean the disaster deserves your belief. The imagination is a gift, but when fear takes control of it, it becomes a prison. The same imagination that can help you dream, create, plan, love, pray, write, heal, and build a better life can also trap you in scenes that do not exist. It can make you hear words no one has spoken. It can make you feel rejection from a silence that may mean nothing. It can make you prepare for failure when tomorrow has not even had the chance to unfold. It can make you mourn losses that have not happened. It can make you defend yourself against people who are not attacking you. It can make your bed feel unsafe while the room itself is quiet. This is the misuse of imagination. It is not that imagination is bad. It is that anxiety uses imagination without wisdom. It takes a creative power and uses it to frighten the body. It takes the mind's ability to picture possibilities and uses it to rehearse suffering. It takes the future, which is still open, and fills it with old pain. The Stoics understood that the mind must be trained not to be fooled by its own impressions. An impression is how something appears to you. It may appear dangerous. It may appear hopeless. It may appear urgent. It may appear final, but appearance is not always truth. The untrained mind sees the image and bows. The trained mind sees the image and pauses. It says, "This is something my mind has produced. I do not need to worship it." That pause is freedom, because without the pause, imagination becomes your ruler. A thought comes. What if they leave? Then the imagination begins. You see yourself alone. You feel the silence. You hear the words. You picture the ending. The body reacts. The chest tightens. The throat closes. The stomach drops. Now the mind says, "Look how real this feels." but it feels real because the body has entered the image. The feeling is real, yes, but the scene may still be false. This is where wisdom must step in gently, not to shame you, not to say stop being dramatic, not to deny that the fear hurts, but to remind you that pain created by imagination still needs truth beside it. You can say, "This is a mental movie, not my present life." You can say, "This is fear using images." You can say, "This has not happened." You can say, "I do not need to live inside a scene that is not here." These sentences are not small. They are a way of returning your imagination to its proper place. You are not destroying it. You are removing fear from the director's seat. Most night anxiety grows because the mind uses imagination to finish stories too early. A message is unanswered, so imagination writes the ending. A plan is uncertain, so imagination writes disaster. A mistake was made, so imagination writes lifelong shame. A person sounded different, so imagination writes rejection. A pain appears in the body, so imagination writes danger. But life has not written those endings yet. Fear has. And fear is not a reliable storyteller. Fear tells stories based on what wounded you before. If you were abandoned, fear writes abandonment into every silence. If you were judged, fear writes judgment into every room. If you failed once, fear writes failure into every challenge. If you were hurt when you trusted, fear writes betrayal into every unknown. It does not wait for new evidence. It takes old pain and uses it as ink. But you are not required to read every story fear writes. This is the Stoic discipline of the night, to stop entering every imagined scene as if it has authority. You can observe the image without becoming the character inside it. You can notice the disaster without negotiating with it. You can see the possible pain without giving it your whole body. A possible future is not a present command. This matters because the body pays the price for imagined suffering. The muscles tighten, the heartbeat changes, the breath becomes shallow, sleep moves farther away. The nervous system begins preparing for something that is not in the room. And if this happens often enough, the body starts to believe night itself is dangerous. Not because the night is dangerous, but because night has become the place where imagination is allowed to frighten the body without boundaries. So tonight, give your imagination a boundary. When it begins to create disaster, say, "You are allowed to create, but you are not allowed to terrorize me." When it begins to show you worst-case endings, say, "You are showing me one possibility, not the whole truth." When it begins to replay old pain through new faces, say, "This belongs to memory, not prophecy." When it begins to drag tomorrow into the dark, say, "Tomorrow has not spoken yet." And then guide imagination somewhere gentler. This does not mean forcing fake happiness. It means using the same inner power for peace instead of panic. Let imagination picture your body growing heavy. Let it picture the day closing like a soft door. Let it picture worries being placed outside the room, one by one. Let it picture the mind as a quiet lake after wind has passed. Let it picture morning arriving with more clarity than midnight could offer. Let it picture you meeting life not perfectly, but steadily. The imagination that once created fear can also create refuge. You can picture yourself breathing through uncertainty without being ruled by it. You can picture yourself responding calmly to tomorrow's challenges. You can picture yourself releasing what does not belong to you. You can picture your nervous system learning safety again. You can picture the thought arriving and passing without becoming a storm. This is not childish. This is training. The mind learns through repeated inner images. If every night you picture disaster, the body practices fear. If every night you picture release, the body slowly practices peace. The nervous system does not change through force. It changes through repeated signals of safety. And one of those signals is this: not every image needs your belief. Let the mind create, but do not let it deceive you. Let the future remain open. Let silence remain silence. Let uncertainty remain uncertainty. Do not let imagination rush ahead and turn every unknown into a wound. The unknown is not automatically dark. It may contain answers you have not received yet. It may contain help you did not expect. It may contain strength that only rises when the moment comes. It may contain a softer outcome than fear is willing to show you. Anxiety uses imagination to narrow life until only danger is visible. Wisdom uses imagination to widen life again. So before sleep, ask yourself gently, what am I picturing right now? Not, what is wrong with me? Not, why can't I stop? Just, what am I picturing? If you are picturing a disaster, name it as an image. If you are picturing rejection, name it as an image. If you are picturing failure, name it as an image. This takes the image off the throne of truth and places it back inside the mind where it belongs. Then return to what is real. The bed is real, the breath is real, the body is real, the night around you is real. The imagined disaster is not real in this moment. It may be possible, but possible is not present. Possible is not proof. Possible is not permission to suffer all night. Before morning comes, let this truth settle softly into you. Most night anxiety is a misuse of imagination, but imagination can be reclaimed. The same mind that created fear can learn to create calm. The same inner eye that pictured disaster can learn to picture release. The same spirit that wandered into shadows can be guided back towards stillness. You do not have to follow every image your fear produces. You do not have to live through every future your mind invents. You do not have to turn your imagination into a place of punishment. Tonight, let imagination become gentle again. Let it stop building storms in a room where you are safe enough to rest. Let it stop painting danger over a future that has not arrived. Let it become a quiet servant of peace, not a hidden servant of fear. And as the mind softens, as the pictures lose their power, as the body realizes there is no disaster here to fight, you may begin to feel the truth beneath all anxious images. You are here. You are breathing. And this moment is much quieter than the story your fear was trying to tell. And after you see how imagination can turn the night into a place of false danger, the next step is to bring the mind back to the only ground that has ever been steady, what is truly within your control. Not the whole future, not the hidden thoughts of others, not every outcome, not every delay, not every loss, just the small circle of power that still belongs to you, even in the dark. There is a quiet kind of strength that returns when you stop reaching for control where control was never given. At night, anxiety often grows because the mind stretches too far. It reaches into tomorrow. It reaches into people's minds. It reaches into old mistakes. It reaches into possible outcomes, possible rejection, possible failure, possible pain. It tries to hold all of it at once, and because no human being can hold all of that, the heart begins to feel weak. Not because you are weak, but because you are trying to carry things no soul was built to carry. This is why the Stoics placed so much weight on one simple question: what is within my control? That question is not small. It is a lantern in the dark. When anxiety says, "What if they think badly of me?" the Stoic mind asks, "Can I control their thoughts?" No. But can I control my honesty, my kindness, my patience, my behavior, my response? Yes. When anxiety says, "What if tomorrow goes wrong?" the Stoic mind asks, "Can I control every event tomorrow?" No. But can I control how I prepare, how I breathe, how I meet the first step, how I refuse panic? Yes. When anxiety says, "What if I never become who I want to be?" the Stoic mind asks, "Can I control the whole path tonight?" No. But can I control one choice, one habit, one act of discipline, one moment of self-respect? Yes. This is how peace begins to return, not by owning everything, but by returning to what is yours. The anxious mind wants total control because it believes total control is the only path to safety. It thinks if it can predict enough, plan enough, worry enough, and hold enough, nothing will hurt you. But life does not work that way. Some things will still be uncertain. Some people will still be unpredictable. Some days will still disappoint you. Some answers will still take time. Some roads will still open slowly. And if your peace depends on controlling all of that, then peace will always feel far away. But when your peace depends on your response, something changes. You may not be able to control the storm, but you can control whether you add more thunder inside yourself. You may not be able to control another person's silence, but you can control whether you turn that silence into a story that wounds you. You may not be able to control the speed of healing, but you can control whether you speak to yourself with cruelty or compassion tonight. You may not be able to control the future, but you can control whether you sacrifice your sleep to fear, and that is power. Quiet power, real power. The kind of power anxiety forgets. Before sleep, the mind must be guided back from the wide, frightening world into the small, sacred place of choice. This is not shrinking your life. This is protecting your peace. Because the mind that tries to live everywhere at once becomes scattered, but the mind that returns to what is within reach becomes calm enough to rest. Ask yourself gently, what belongs to me tonight? Does another person's judgment belong to you? No. Does tomorrow's final outcome belong to you? No. Does the past, exactly as it happened, belong to you now? No. Does the timing of every answer belong to you? No. Does the full shape of the future belong to you? No. But your breath belongs to you. Your next thought can be guided by you. Your hand can soften. Your jaw can loosen. Your body can be allowed to rest. Your inner voice can become kinder. Your attention can be brought back from disaster. Your response to fear can become calmer. Your willingness to stop feeding anxiety belongs to you. And sometimes that is enough to change the whole night. The Stoic path is not about pretending you have no problems. It is about refusing to give your life away to what cannot be controlled. It is about understanding that peace does not come from making the world obey you. Peace comes from no longer letting the world inside you become wild, because the world outside you is uncertain. There is a difference between influence and control. You may influence a relationship by being honest, respectful, and present. But you cannot control another person's heart. You may influence your work by preparing and showing up, but you cannot control every result. You may influence your health by caring for your body, but you cannot control every sensation, every outcome, every unknown. You may influence your future through wise action, but you cannot hold every detail in your hands before it arrives. When you confuse influence with control, anxiety grows. When you accept the difference, peace returns. This does not make you passive, it makes you precise. You stop wasting energy on what cannot be moved and start using energy where it can actually serve you. You stop begging the future for guarantees and begin building a steadier character in the present. You stop trying to control every thought that comes and begin controlling whether you follow it. You stop trying to control every feeling that rises and begin controlling how gently you meet it. That is the kind of control that matters before sleep. Because tonight, you may not be able to stop every anxious thought from appearing, but you can stop turning each one into a command. You may not be able to stop every fear from knocking, but you can choose not to open the door. You may not be able to stop the unknown from existing, but you can stop calling the unknown your enemy. You may not be able to force peace to arrive instantly, but you can create the conditions where peace is no longer blocked by panic. Return to what is yours. That phrase can become a soft anchor in the dark. When the mind runs to tomorrow, return to what is yours. When the mind enters someone else's opinion, return to what is yours. When the mind reopens the past, return to what is yours. When the mind begins bargaining with fear, return to what is yours. And what is yours in this moment may be very simple. A slow inhale, a slower exhale, the decision to unclench the hands, the decision to stop replaying the scene, the decision to say, I do not control this, but I can control how I meet myself while this remains uncertain. There is a great mercy in this, because much of anxiety comes from trying to become responsible for the entire universe around your pain. You try to control how people feel, how life unfolds, how quickly healing happens, how tomorrow behaves, how the past is remembered, how the future protects you. But the soul becomes tired when it keeps trying to do the work of life, time, and other people. Tonight, let life do its part. Let time do its part. Let others carry what belongs to them. Let tomorrow wait for its own sun. Let your only work be the work that is truly yours, to return, to soften, to breathe, to release, to trust that you do not need total control to be safe enough to rest. The body can feel this shift. When the mind stops reaching for everything, the body stops bracing against everything. The shoulders no longer need to carry outcomes. The chest no longer needs to hold predictions. The stomach no longer needs to digest tomorrow's fear. The face no longer needs to wear the tension of a future it cannot command. The whole body begins to hear the message. We are coming back to what is real, and what is real is not the imagined ending, not the possible disaster, not the old regret, not the opinion you cannot read. What is real is this moment, this quiet, this breath, this tired body asking to be treated with mercy. Before morning comes, remember this. Anxiety becomes stronger when the mind tries to control what was never in its hands. But peace becomes stronger when you return to the small, honest power that still belongs to you. You do not control everything. You were never meant to. But you can control where you place your attention tonight. You can control whether you punish yourself or comfort yourself. You can control whether you chase every fear or let it pass. You can control whether you keep wrestling the future or place it down until morning. And in that small circle of control, the night becomes softer. The mind becomes quieter. The body becomes safer, and sleep becomes possible again. And after you return to what is truly within your control, you begin to notice one of anxiety's most painful habits. It keeps asking the future to approve your peace. It waits for tomorrow to promise safety before it allows the body to soften. It waits for the answer, the result, the reply, the sign, the guarantee, the proof that nothing will go wrong. And until the future gives that permission, the mind says, do not rest yet. There is a quiet prison in waiting for life to become certain before you allow yourself to breathe. You may not say it in those exact words, but the body feels it. I will rest when I know everything is okay. I will rest when they reply. I will rest when the money is enough. I will rest when the pain is gone. I will rest when the plan is clear. I will rest when I finally know where this is going. And so the night becomes a waiting room for answers that may not arrive before morning. But the future cannot give you permission to rest tonight, because the future is not here. It cannot speak yet. It cannot explain itself yet. It cannot promise you every outcome. It cannot open every door before its hour. And when you place your rest in the hands of something that has not arrived, you give your peace to silence. You give your sleep to uncertainty. You make your body wait for a guarantee that life was never able to offer in the dark. This is why the Stoic mind must learn a different way. The Stoic does not ask the future, "May I rest?" The Stoic asks the present, "What is mine to do now?" And if the answer is nothing useful, then rest becomes the duty, not a luxury, not an escape, not something postponed until life becomes easy. A duty, a wise act, a way of preserving the mind for the moment when action is actually required. Anxiety tells you that rest must wait until the future becomes safe. Wisdom tells you that rest is how you become strong enough to meet the future, safe or not. That difference can change the whole night, because if you wait for the future to feel harmless, you may wait forever. There will always be some unknown thing ahead. A conversation, a bill, a decision, a result, a change, a responsibility, a possibility of loss, a possibility of disappointment, a question you cannot yet answer. This is not a sign that life is against you. This is simply the nature of being alive. Life unfolds. It does not deliver the whole map before you take the next step. So if your peace depends on seeing the whole map, peace will always feel delayed. But what if peace does not require the whole map? What if rest does not require perfect certainty? What if you do not need the future to bow before you can close your eyes? What if tonight's rest belongs to you simply because you are human, tired, and worthy of repair? The anxious mind may resist this. It may say, "But how can I rest when I do not know what will happen?" And the answer is gentle but firm, because no one knows what will happen. Not fully, not perfectly, not with complete certainty. Every sleeping person on earth rests without owning tomorrow. Every peaceful person still lives beside unknowns. The difference is not that they have no future to face. The difference is that they have stopped asking the future for permission to exist calmly in the present. You do not need tomorrow's approval to rest tonight. You do not need the unknown to become clear before your body is allowed to soften. You do not need every possible ending to become safe before your mind is allowed to be still. This is not carelessness, it is maturity. Carelessness says, "Nothing matters." Maturity says, "This matters, and that is why I will meet it better with rest." Carelessness ignores what is coming. Maturity refuses to suffer what is coming before it arrives. Carelessness avoids responsibility. Maturity protects the strength responsibility will need. The future may bring something that requires courage, but courage is not built by panic. Courage is built by returning to yourself again and again. It is built when you refuse to abandon the present for imagined danger. It is built when you say, "I do not know everything yet, but I can still be steady." It is built when you stop bowing to every uncertainty as if it were a ruler. At night, the mind often confuses waiting with preparation. It thinks if it stays awake watching the future, it is doing something useful. But watching the future in fear does not change the future. It only exhausts the watcher. It is like standing at a locked door all night, staring at it, shaking it, asking it to open before its time. The door will open when morning comes. Your staring does not make it open faster. It only makes you weaker when it finally does. Some doors must be left closed until their hour. Some answers must be left untouched until they ripen. Some paths must remain hidden until you have taken the next step. Some outcomes must be allowed to belong to time. This is hard, especially if you have been hurt by surprises before. When life has once shocked you, disappointed you, or taken something from you suddenly, the mind begins to believe it must stay ahead of pain. It thinks constant alertness will prevent another wound. So it asks the future questions all night. Are you safe? Are you kind? Are you going to hurt me? Are you going to repeat what happened before? But the future cannot answer. And because it cannot answer, fear answers for it. Fear is always willing to answer on behalf of the unknown. But fear is not truth. Fear is the voice of old pain trying to predict new life. It may deserve compassion, but it does not deserve authority. You can listen to the fear and still say, I understand why you are asking, but we are not going to wait for tomorrow's permission to rest. We are here now. We are breathing now. We are allowed to soften now. That is how you begin to break the spell. Rest must become something you grant yourself, not something you request from circumstance. If another person replies kindly, you may rest, but you can rest before the reply. If tomorrow goes well, you may feel relief, but you can rest before the outcome. If life becomes clear, you may feel calm, but you can rest before clarity arrives, because rest is not a prize given by the future. It is a need held by the body. And the body has waited long enough. The shoulders have waited for certainty. The chest has waited for good news. The stomach has waited for proof that danger is gone. The eyes have waited for the mind to finish thinking. But the mind cannot finish the future tonight. So the body must be given another message. You do not have to wait anymore. Let the body hear that. You do not have to wait until everything is clear. You do not have to wait until everyone understands you. You do not have to wait until every fear has been disproved. You do not have to wait until the future becomes gentle. You can rest while the future is still unknown. This is one of the deepest forms of trust. Not trust that nothing difficult will ever happen. Not trust that life will always give you what you want. Not trust that people will never hurt you or plans will never change. A deeper trust. The trust that you can meet life 1 hour at a time. The trust that strength can return after rest. The trust that morning often brings enough light for the next step. The trust that you do not have to live tomorrow before tomorrow arrives. The Stoic mind does not demand that the universe explain itself before sleep. It does not stand at the edge of the future begging for certainty. It returns to the present and asks, what can I practice now? Patience, surrender, courage, calm, boundaries, breath, self-command, the ability to release what is not yet yours. That is enough work for tonight, because the future will always be larger than your control. But the present is small enough to hold. One breath, one softening, one quiet refusal to panic, one hand resting gently, one thought released, one moment where you stop asking life for guarantees and begin giving yourself permission. Say quietly, I do not need tomorrow to approve my rest. Say, I do not need the future to promise me safety before I sleep. Say, I can meet what comes when it comes. Say, tonight rest is mine to choose. These words may not remove every fear at once, but they begin to change who is in charge. The future no longer sits above you like a judge deciding whether you deserve peace. Anxiety no longer holds your sleep hostage until life becomes predictable. The unknown no longer becomes a locked gate between you and rest. You take the permission back, and once permission returns to you, something soft opens inside the night. You no longer need to bargain with tomorrow. You no longer need to ask every possible outcome to be kind before your body can loosen. You no longer need to stand guard at the door of what has not happened. You can lie down inside the truth of now. The future may come with questions, but tonight has an answer. Rest. The future may come with work, but tonight has a task. Release. The future may come with uncertainty, but tonight has a gift. The chance to stop fighting what is not yet here. Before morning comes, remember this deeply. You must stop asking the future for permission to rest, because the future has no right to own your night before it arrives. Your sleep belongs to the present. Your breath belongs to the present. Your peace begins in the present. And right now, in this quiet hour, you are allowed to rest without waiting for tomorrow to say yes. And after you stop asking the future for permission to rest, you meet another quiet doorway inside the mind. You begin to notice how many questions have been standing there, waiting for your attention. Questions about people, questions about timing, questions about your path, questions about your worth, questions about what will happen next. And because they are unanswered, the mind wants to chase them through the dark. But not every question becomes clearer because you follow it. Some questions only become heavier when you chase them before their season. There is a painful kind of searching that begins when the soul cannot accept silence as an answer for tonight. You may lie there asking, why did this happen? What did they mean? What if I choose wrong? Will things ever change? Am I falling behind? Will I be okay? Should I have done more? What is life trying to show me? And each question feels important. Each one feels like it deserves an answer before your eyes close. But the more you chase, the more the mind opens another path. One question becomes another. One answer leads to more doubt. One thought pulls another thought behind it, until you are no longer resting. You are wandering. This is why unanswered questions can become so dangerous at night, not because questions are bad, but because a tired mind often chases them without wisdom. It does not know when to stop. It does not know when the answer is not available. It does not know when silence is not punishment, but timing. The Stoics understood that the mind wants to possess what life has not yet given. It wants to turn uncertainty into knowledge. It wants to force meaning from every delay. It wants to make the hidden become visible before its hour. But wisdom does not demand that every question open immediately. Wisdom knows that some answers require time, distance, maturity, rest, or a new morning. You do not have to chase every question simply because it hurts. This is a hard lesson because some questions feel emotional. They do not sit quietly in the mind. They press on the chest. They stir old fears. They make the body feel unfinished. A question like, will they stay, is not just a question. It may carry the fear of being left. A question like, will I succeed, may carry the fear of being nothing. A question like, why did this happen, may carry the pain of not feeling safe in your own story. So the mind chases the answer because it believes the answer will remove the ache. But sometimes the ache needs comfort before it needs an answer. Sometimes what you are truly looking for is not information. It is reassurance. It is safety. It is the feeling that your life is still held, even though you do not understand everything yet. And if you mistake that need for a thinking problem, you may keep searching your mind when your body is actually asking for softness. Not every question is meant to be solved by thinking. Some are meant to be held with patience. To let unanswered questions exist without chasing them, you must first stop treating uncertainty as an enemy. A question without an answer is uncomfortable, yes, but it is not always dangerous. It is simply an open space. And open spaces are part of life. Every person sleeps beside open spaces, even the confident, even the wise, even those who seem peaceful. No one has the whole script. No one has every reason. No one knows every outcome before it arrives. Peace is not knowing everything. Peace is knowing you do not have to know everything tonight. The anxious mind will say, but if I stop searching, I may miss something important. But ask yourself gently, has chasing this question brought you clarity, or has it only brought more tension? Has it given you one useful step, or has it taken you deeper into confusion? Has it made the body softer, or has it made sleep feel farther away? This is how you know when a question has become a trap. A helpful question leads to a simple action, a clean insight, or a calm acceptance. A harmful question keeps circling without giving anything back. It demands energy but gives no peace. It asks for attention but offers no direction. It makes you feel as if you are working, but really you are being pulled. When that happens, you can stop. Not because the question does not matter, but because this is not the hour when the answer can be found. You can say, "This question may matter, but I do not have to chase it tonight." You can say, "This answer belongs to time." You can say, "I can let this remain unfinished without calling it danger." You can say, "I do not need to turn a question into a wound." These sentences create a boundary between curiosity and anxiety. Curiosity is open, anxiety is desperate. Curiosity can wait. Anxiety demands. Curiosity says, "Let me understand when the time is right." Anxiety says, "Tell me now, or I cannot rest." But life does not always respond to force. Some answers come only when the mind stops shaking the door. There is a reason morning often brings clarity that midnight could not. At night, the mind is tired, the body is sensitive, the room is quiet, the imagination is active. Old emotions are closer to the surface, so the same question that could be handled with patience in daylight can become a deep fear in the dark. This is why you must not trust every question that becomes urgent after midnight. Urgency is not always wisdom. Sometimes urgency is exhaustion wearing a loud voice. The Stoic practice is to place the question down gently and return to what is present. You do not throw it away. You do not deny it. You simply refuse to follow it into endless darkness. You say, "Stay here. If you are true, you will still be here when I have the strength to meet you. If you are only fear, you may fade by morning." That is a powerful act of self-command, because chasing unanswered questions often gives the mind the illusion of control. You feel busy, so you feel responsible. You feel intense, so you think you are getting closer to truth. But truth does not always come through intensity. Sometimes truth comes through quiet, through distance, through patience, through living a little longer, through letting the nervous system settle enough to see clearly. You cannot force every answer out of life by losing sleep, and you do not need to. There are questions your future self will answer with experience, questions your calmer self will answer with wisdom, questions time will answer by unfolding, questions other people will answer through their actions, questions life will answer slowly, not because it is cruel, but because some things cannot be understood from inside the storm. Tonight, let that be enough. Let the unanswered question sit beside you without becoming your master. Let it be present without becoming a command. Let it remain open without dragging your spirit into a search that has no ending. You can acknowledge it and still rest. You can care about the answer and still sleep. You can be uncertain and still be safe enough in this moment. Place one hand on your chest, if that feels natural, and speak to the part of you that wants to chase. Say, "I know you want an answer because you want peace, but chasing this tonight is not giving us peace. We will let it wait. We will breathe. We will return to the body. We will allow life to reveal what thinking cannot force. Then return to the breath. One breath does not answer every question, but it brings you back from the chase. Another breath reminds the body that the question is not an emergency. Another breath teaches the mind that silence can exist without being filled. Slowly, the question may still be there, but it becomes less sharp, less demanding, less like a door you must break down before morning. Before sleep, you can practice leaving open things open. The unanswered message can remain unanswered. The uncertain path can remain uncertain. The unfinished emotion can remain unfinished. The hidden meaning can remain hidden. The future can remain unopened. And you can still rest. This is not giving up. This is learning the rhythm of wisdom. There is a time to ask, a time to seek, a time to act, and a time to stop chasing. Night is often the time to stop chasing, not because answers do not matter, but because rest may be the thing that prepares you to receive them when they come. Before morning comes, remember this: unanswered questions are not enemies. They are spaces waiting for time, clarity, or experience. You do not have to fill every space with fear. You do not have to chase every question through the dark. You do not have to turn silence into proof that something is wrong. Let the question breathe. Let the mind rest beside it. Let the answer come when it is ready. And tonight, let peace come before certainty. And after you learn to let unanswered questions exist without chasing them, the night becomes ready for a deeper release. Not just letting go of one question, not just closing one worry, but giving the entire day back to time. Everything that happened, everything that did not happen, everything you understood, everything you still do not understand, all of it must return to the place it belongs. The day came, the day moved through you, the day taught what it could, and now it must be released. There is a sacred peace that begins when you stop dragging a finished day into an unfinished night. Every day leaves something behind: a sentence, a feeling, a small regret, a quiet victory, a task you completed, a task you avoided, a look someone gave you, a message that arrived, a message that did not, a moment where you felt strong, a moment where you felt smaller than you wanted to feel. And by the time night comes, the mind often gathers all these pieces and spreads them across the inner table, as if it must sort through everything before sleep can begin. But not everything from the day needs to be carried into the night. Some things only need to be acknowledged. Some things only need to be forgiven. Some things only need to be left alone long enough for their weight to fade. Some things do not need immediate meaning. They only need time. The Stoic sleep ritual of giving the day back to time begins with one simple understanding. This day is no longer happening. It may still echo in the mind, but it is no longer alive in the world. The conversation has ended. The mistake has passed. The task has either been done or left for another hour. The emotions have risen and moved. The people have gone back into their own lives. The sun has left the sky. And now the body is asking to enter a different season. Night is not a continuation of the day. Night is the place where the day is placed down. But many people never place it down. They keep the day alive through review, regret, replay, pressure, and judgment. They keep asking, why did I say that? Why did they act that way? Why did I not do more? Why did today feel so heavy? What does this mean for tomorrow? And the day, which should have ended, continues to breathe inside the mind. This is how rest disappears. To give the day back to time, you must stop treating the day as something that still needs your control. The past hour is not in your hands anymore. Even the morning of this same day is already beyond reach. You cannot go back and speak better. You cannot go back and move faster. You cannot go back and avoid the awkward moment. You cannot go back and make someone understand you differently. What is done has entered time. And once something has entered time, your work is no longer control. Your work is wisdom. Wisdom asks, what can I learn? Anxiety asks, how can I undo it? Wisdom asks, what can I carry forward? Anxiety asks, how long must I punish myself? Wisdom asks, what is the next right step? Anxiety asks, what if this defines me forever? This is why the ritual matters. It teaches the mind how to end things, because a mind that never learns how to end the day will keep living in many days at once. It will carry Monday's regret into Tuesday's pressure. It will carry last month's shame into tonight's silence. It will carry childhood pain into tomorrow's fear. and slowly life becomes crowded with days that were never properly released. But tonight, you can begin differently. You can look at the day with calm eyes and say, "You are complete." Not because everything was perfect, not because every wound was healed, not because every question was answered, but because your time has passed, your hour is over, your lessons may remain, but your weight does not have to. This is the gentle discipline of the Stoic heart. It does not deny reality. It does not pretend the day was easy if it was hard. It does not force fake gratitude over real pain. It simply refuses to keep suffering from what cannot be changed in this moment. It allows the mind to take the lesson without dragging the whole burden into sleep. Before bed, you can quietly divide the day into 3 parts. What was within your control? What was outside your control? What can be released now? This is not a long mental exercise. It is not an invitation to overthink. It is a soft sorting of the soul. What was within your control may include your effort, your tone, your patience, your honesty, your choices, your willingness to try. If you did well, acknowledge it. If you fell short, take the lesson without cruelty. You are allowed to learn without attacking yourself. What was outside your control may include other people's reactions, delays, unexpected problems, someone else's mood, the timing of events, the way life unfolded despite your plans. These things may have affected you, but they do not belong to your command. Give them back. Do not let them sleep inside your chest. What can be released now may include the emotional leftovers, the tension, the disappointment, the replay, the need to explain, the need to know, the need to make the day mean more than it means tonight. Release does not mean the day did not matter. Release means you are no longer willing to keep paying for it with your peace. There is deep healing in saying, "I give this day back to time." Say it slowly. I give this day back to time. I give back the words I cannot change. I give back the moments I cannot edit. I give back the reactions I cannot control. I give back the pressure to understand everything tonight. I give back the weight that was never meant to follow me into sleep. These words are not magic, but they are direction. They tell the mind where to place what it has been holding. They tell the body that the day is no longer demanding action. They tell the nervous system that the struggle has ended for now. And the body needs that message, because when the mind keeps carrying the day, the body stays ready, ready to explain, ready to defend, ready to fix, ready to prepare, ready to be hurt again. But when the mind gives the day back to time, the body begins to descend, the muscles begin to soften, the breath begins to slow, the heart begins to understand that nothing more is required from this hour. This is why many ancient traditions honored the end of the day. They understood that endings must be marked. Without a ritual, the mind keeps reaching backward. But with a ritual, even a simple one, the mind receives a signal. The gate is closing. The day is done. The spirit may return home. Your ritual does not need to be complicated. It can be as simple as turning off the light with intention, placing the phone away, sitting quietly for a moment, taking 3 slow breaths, resting a hand on your chest, whispering, "Enough for today," letting the room become a place of completion, not continuation. Enough for today. There is mercy in that sentence. It means you do not have to keep proving. You do not have to keep reviewing. You do not have to keep measuring your worth against the events of the day. You do not have to be the worker, the fixer, the helper, the strong one, the thinker, the planner, the protector, the one who holds everything together. Tonight, you are allowed to be the one who is held by silence. And if the mind resists, if it says, "But there is still so much to think about," answer with gentleness. Yes, and thinking has its hour. This is not that hour. If it says, "But I made mistakes," answer, "Then I will carry the lesson, not the punishment." If it says, "But today hurt," answer, "Then I will let the hurt be held by time, not tightened by replay." If it says, "But tomorrow is coming," answer, "Then I will meet tomorrow with a rested mind." This is how you give the day back without abandoning yourself. You are not throwing the day away. You are placing it where it belongs, into time, into memory, into lesson, into the quiet river of things that have passed and no longer need to be held by force. The day may have been heavy, but you do not have to become heavy with it. The day may have been imperfect, but you do not have to punish yourself into perfection. The day may have left questions, but you do not have to chase them through the night. The day may have shown you where you are still healing, but healing does not require sleeplessness. Before morning comes, let this truth settle deeply. Every day must be returned to time, or the soul will keep living in what is already over. You are not meant to carry every hour beyond its ending. You are not meant to keep every moment alive with worry. You are not meant to turn night into storage for the day's unfinished emotions. Give the day back. Let time hold what your body cannot. Let silence receive what your mind no longer needs to examine. Let sleep become the quiet bridge between what has passed and what is still waiting to be born. And as you release today, one breath at a time, may you feel the ancient relief of a soul that no longer has to carry what time has already taken. And after you give the day back to time, the mind begins to learn a softer truth. Not every answer belongs to the dark. Not every decision should be made inside exhaustion. Not every fear should be trusted simply because it becomes loud at midnight. Some wisdom cannot reach you while the body is tense and the mind is tired. Some clarity waits for morning because morning brings a different kind of light, not only to the room, but to the thoughts themselves. There is a reason the same problem that terrifies you at night can feel smaller when the sun returns. Midnight has a way of making everything feel final. A mistake feels like a life sentence. A silence feels like rejection. A delay feels like a warning. An unfinished task feels like proof that you are failing. The future feels like a door that will not open, and because the world is quiet, the mind begins to believe its own noise. It speaks with urgency. It speaks with pressure. It speaks as if every fear must be answered before sleep can come. But midnight panic is not wisdom. It is often tiredness trying to think. It is a weary body wearing the voice of certainty. It is the nervous system searching for safety when what it truly needs is rest. And when the body has been carrying too much, the mind does not always see clearly. It sees through fatigue, it sees through tension, it sees through old wounds, it sees through the shadow of what could go wrong. Morning wisdom is different. Morning does not always remove the problem, but it changes the person meeting the problem. The breath is steadier, the body has more strength, the mind has more distance, the heart is less trapped in the feeling. What looked like a disaster may become a task. What looked like rejection may become uncertainty. What looked like failure may become feedback. What looked like the end may become a difficult moment that can still be handled. This is why the Stoic path teaches you not to worship the first impression. A thought may arrive in the dark and say, "This is terrible." But the trained mind answers, "Maybe," or "Maybe I am tired." A fear may say, "This will ruin everything." But the wiser part of you says, "Let morning judge this." A memory may say, "You should suffer for this again." But your deeper self says, "I will learn without reopening the wound tonight." That small delay can save you from so much pain. Many anxious thoughts feel urgent because they want immediate belief. They want you to decide now, react now, worry now, defend now, fix now, Apologize now, escape now, give up now. Panic hates patience because patience gives truth time to arrive. Panic wants the whole room. Wisdom asks for one breath. Panic says, something must be done. Wisdom asks, what is actually useful in this hour? And often, at night, the most useful thing is not another round of thinking. It is sleep. That may sound too simple, but it is not small. Sleep is not the absence of effort. Sleep is the restoration of judgment. It is the quiet repair of the inner instrument you use to face life. A tired mind can turn one problem into 10. A rested mind can take 10 problems and choose the first step. A tired mind asks, what if I cannot survive this? A rested mind says, what is the next thing I can do? A tired mind makes identity out of pain. A rested mind can separate pain from truth. This is why morning wisdom is often better than midnight panic. Morning has perspective that panic cannot produce. At midnight, the mind is close to the fear. Too close, it stands right inside the smoke and tries to describe the whole landscape. But morning steps back. Morning opens a window. Morning lets the body remember that life is wider than the thought that trapped you. Morning reminds you that a feeling can pass, a problem can be handled, a conversation can be had, a plan can be adjusted, and a difficult day can still become survivable. The problem is that anxiety does not want to wait for morning. It says, if you wait, you are careless. It says, if you rest, you are ignoring danger. It says, if you stop thinking, you may lose control. But what control is panic really giving you? Does it solve the matter, or does it only make your body suffer? Does it bring clarity, or does it only increase the noise? Does it prepare you, or does it leave you weaker for the day you are afraid of? This is where honesty matters. Some midnight thinking is not problem solving. It is fear spinning in place. It uses the language of preparation, but it gives no useful step. It repeats the same concern, asks the same question, opens the same wound, and calls the exhaustion responsibility. But responsibility should make you more capable, not more broken. If a thought is making you less able to meet life, it may not be wisdom. It may be panic asking to be obeyed. The Stoic answer is not to hate panic. Panic is a signal. It tells you something feels unsafe, uncertain, unfinished, or important. But a signal is not a commander. You can listen without surrendering. You can say, I hear you. Something matters here, but I will not let fear decide the meaning of this night. Then you give morning the authority to review what midnight distorted. Say to yourself, this can wait for morning wisdom. That sentence is powerful because it does not deny the concern. It simply moves the concern to a better place. It says, I will not let the darkest hour become the judge of my whole life. It says, I will not make permanent conclusions from a temporary state. It says, I will not decide my worth, my future, my relationships, or my strength while my body is begging for rest. So many painful decisions are born from tiredness. Messages sent too quickly, conclusions made too early, hope abandoned too soon, shame believed too deeply, fear trusted too easily. But when you wait even a few hours, the inner weather can change. The mind that felt trapped may find a small opening. The heart that felt overwhelmed may find steadiness. The thought that felt like truth may be revealed as exhaustion. This is not weakness. This is restraint. And restraint is one of the quietest forms of power. The wise person does not answer every inner alarm immediately. The wise person learns timing. They know that not every hour is good for judgment. Night is good for release. Morning is better for decisions. Night is good for surrender. Morning is better for planning. Night is good for softening the body. Morning is better for meeting the world. This rhythm protects you. Because when you ask the night to do the work of morning, the night becomes heavy. And when you ask a tired mind to do the work of a rested mind, the answers become harsh. You may accuse yourself when you need compassion. You may predict disaster when you need patience. You may force certainty when you need time. You may mistake emotional intensity for truth. But wisdom does not always shout. Sometimes wisdom arrives quietly after sleep. It arrives when you wake and realize the fear did not deserve the whole night. It arrives when you notice that the problem still exists, but it is not as large as panic made it. It arrives when you see one practical step, where midnight showed only a wall. It arrives when you feel a small space between yourself and the thought that owned you hours before. That space is healing. So tonight, if a fear tries to become final, do not sign your name under it. If the mind writes a dark conclusion, do not accept it as law. If panic says, "This is what everything means," answer gently, "No, morning will see more clearly." Let that be your boundary. Morning will see more clearly. Morning will have more strength. Morning will bring more light. Morning will know what midnight could not. And if morning does not have every answer, it will at least have more steadiness. That is enough. You do not need perfect clarity to move forward. You only need more clarity than panic can offer. You only need the next step, the next honest action, the next calm breath, the next wise response. Before sleep, you can give yourself permission to postpone judgment. You can say, "I will not decide this tonight." You can say, "I will not believe the worst version of this thought." You can say, "I will not let panic write tomorrow before I arrive there." You can say, "I trust rest more than fear." And as you say this, let the body feel the relief of not having to solve, decide, defend, or predict. Let the shoulders drop from the burden of making sense of everything tonight. Let the chest loosen from the pressure of holding tomorrow's answer. Let the face soften from the strain of trying to read the future in the dark. You are allowed to wait. You are allowed to sleep before you understand. You are allowed to let morning carry what midnight cannot hold wisely. Because before morning comes, the greatest act of wisdom may be refusing to believe the mind at its most tired. The fear may be loud, but loud is not the same as true. The problem may be real, but panic is not the best guide. The night may feel heavy, but it is not the final judge. Let midnight be midnight. Let morning be morning. Let rest become the bridge between confusion and clarity. And when the sun returns, may you meet your life not as someone defeated by the dark, but as someone who remembered that wisdom often arrives after the mind has been allowed to sleep. And now, as this long night begins to soften, remember what you have been practicing. You have not been trying to defeat your mind. You have been learning how to guide it. You have learned that the night mind is not always the true mind, that fear is not the same as fact, that not every problem must be rehearsed before morning, that tomorrow's burden does not belong in tonight's bed, that every thought is not an emergency, and every unanswered question does not need to be chased through the dark. You have learned to let the day die with dignity, to name fear without serving it, to stop negotiating with imaginary disasters, to separate true preparation from mental punishment, to release the need to fix your whole life before sunrise, to close the inner court, to say, "This is not mine to solve tonight," to close the mental tabs that keep the spirit awake, to stop misusing imagination against yourself, to return to what is within your control, to stop asking the future for permission to rest, and to trust that morning wisdom is often kinder than midnight panic. So if anxiety comes again, do not hate yourself for it. Meet it with calm authority. Let the thought appear, but do not crown it. Let the fear speak, but do not follow it. Let the question remain, but do not chase it. Let tomorrow wait outside the room until its hour arrives. Tonight, you do not need to become perfect. You do not need to know everything. You do not need to solve everything. You only need to return, again and again, to this quiet truth. You are here, you are breathing, and you are allowed to rest while life is still unfinished. Before you sleep, leave one word in the comments: released. Let it be your quiet promise that tonight you are no longer carrying what fear asked you to hold. And if this meditation helped your mind feel lighter, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell, and return whenever the night feels too loud. More calm is waiting for you here.